you are ready, please. The ground is yours.
Sibutelo buzima bawo tiksosomanla enklaben sibutelo buzima bawo tiksosomanla Yule sikala endili suziyam Lisuboko ndisishomi Aindulelelebe Bawo tiksosomanda Yule sikala endili suziyam Lisuboko ndisishomi Aindulelelebe Bawo tiksosomanda Bawo tiksosomanda Sibutelo buzima Azisenzeni butelo bukosi Bawo tiksosomanda Bawo tiksosomanda Bitweni butelo buzima Azisenzeni butelo bukosi Bawo tiksosomanda Yule sikala endili suziyam Lisuboko ndisishomi Aindulelelebe Bawo tiksosomanda Yule sikala endili suziyam Lisuboko ndisishomi Aindulelelebe Bawo tiksosomanda Bawo tiksosomanda Bitweni butelo buzima Azisenzeni butelo bukosi Bawo tiksosomanda Bawo tiksosomanda Bitweni butelo buzima Azisenzeni butelo bukosi Bawo tiksosomanda Yesu wangu nampenda Yesu wangu nampenda kwani yeye alinifia Yesu wangu nampenda Yesu wangu nampenda kwani yeye alinifia Zamani nilikuwa dhambi mgonjwa nilikuwa roho yangu kwa kweli sikuwa na tumaini kuendelea kuishi Zamani nilikuwa dhambi mgonjwa nilikuwa roho yangu kwa kweli sikuwa na tumaini kuendelea kuishi hadi Yesu akaja kuokoa roho yangu Tazama huyu Yesu kaokoa roho yangu na sasa nampenda Yesu wangu nampenda Yesu wangu nampenda kwa kuwa ameniokoa, naahidi kumtumikia milele hadi watu wake watambue, wauonje upendo wake. Nabii kwa kuwa ameniokoa, naahidi kumtumikia milele hadi watu wake watambue, wauonje upendo wake, ili nao wawe na uzima wa milele, ili nao wampende kama ninavyompenda, na sasa nampenda. Yesu wangu nampenda, Yesu wangu nampenda, kwani alinifia. Yesu wangu nampenda, Yesu wangu nampenda, kwani yeye alinifia. Yesu wangu nampenda, kwani yeye alinifia. Tazama neno langu kwa niliokoka, kama nilichelewa na uwekesha msalabani ili uwe na amani. Neno langu kwa niliokoka, kama hujachelewa na uwekesha msalabani ili uwe na amani. Njoni kwa Yesu leo, njoni kwa Yesu leo. Nampenda Yesu wangu, nampenda, nampenda Yesu wangu, nampenda. Mama, I'm sorry, didn't mean to hurt you. I won't be the same again. Mama, I learned a lesson. All these years I've been but you. I never thought I'd see you again. Mama, I've learned a lesson. Oh, Mama, Mama, you won't weep again. Oh, Mama, I won't hurt you no more. Weep no more. Mama, you won't weep again. Oh, Mama, I won't hurt you no more. Weep no more. Mama, you won't weep again. Oh, Mama, I won't hurt you no more. Weep no more. Mama, you won't weep again. Oh, Mama, I won't hurt you no more. Oh, Mama, oh, I'm sorry. Oh, Mama, Mama, I've learned a lesson. Mama, oh, Mama, oh, to hurt you. Oh, I won't never again. Mama, I've learned a lesson. Mama, I've learned a lesson. Mama, Mama, you won't weep again. Oh, Mama, I won't hurt you no more. Weep no more. Mama, you won't weep again. Oh, Mama, I won't hurt you no more. Weep no more. Mama, you won't weep again. Mama, I won't hurt you no more. Weep no more. more. Ay ay, como mili mili ane mange yogino. Ay ay, do ero biro, do ero biro. 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 Ay ay, do ero biro, ay ay, do ero biro, ay ay, como mili mili ane mange yogino. Ay ay, como mili mili ane mange yogino. Ay ay, do ero melo do, como mi ti 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 melo do, ay ay, como mi ti melo do, como mi ti melo do, 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 Jimelo dudu, Jimelo dudu, Jimelo dudu, Jimelo dudu, Jimelo dudu, Jimelo dudu, you are the rocker, you are the rocker, you are the rocker, no rocker, giranga dudu, you are the rocker, no rocker, giranga dudu, you are the rocker. Ginanga dudu, ginanga dudu, ginanga dudu, ginanga dudu, nanga dudu, ginanga dudu, ginanga dudu, ginanga dudu, nanga dudu. Do erobiro, do erobiro, ay ay, do erobiro, do erobiro, ay ay, do erobiro, do erobiro, ay ay, do erobiro, do erobiro. Ay ay, do erobiro, ay ay, do erobiro, ay ay, como mili mili ane mange yogino, ay ay, como mili mili ane mange yogino, ay ay, do melo do, como mi ti melo do, como mi ti melo do, 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 melo do, como mi ti melo do.
Ladies and gentlemen, I think if something is good, it's good. We don't need to wait until the last song. We appreciate it. Let's do the African way. We appreciate each and every song that we hear. Is that okay? Can I see a smile from your faces, please? If you can hear me, just wave. Hello? Okay, now let's give them a hand of applause, please. The African way, always ladies, they shout, with that kanduru. Who is it? Yeah, thank you very much. Now, thank you very much, Almasi. I will call upon Rivers Band back again to give us something. Rivers Band, if you're ready, please.
binadamu watu wa ajabu sana. Nataka kuika utuwe binadamu ni watu wa ajabu sana. Walimsulubisha Yesu Masihi bila kusita. Wangu ananipenda leo kuliko jana. Ananipenda leo kuliko jana. Kuingia mbinguni utaniondolea, wewe ndo nategemea, kufa kupona Baba na kutegemea, chote kitanikasia. Kuingia mbinguni utaniondolea, tegemea, kufa kupona Baba na kutegemea, nikatia, niondolea, wewe ndo nategemea, kufa kupona Baba na kutegemea, chochote kitanikasia. Kuingia mbinguni utaniondolea. Wangu na leo kuliko hazikuishi, abadilikie. Ananipenda leo kuliko jana. Haleluya. Yesu ni Bwana. Napenda kila kitu kwako mimi napenda. Napenda kila kitu kacho kwako mimi napenda. Napenda kila kitu kacho kwako mimi napenda. Napenda kila kitu kwako mimi napenda. Napenda kila kitu kacho kwako mimi napenda.
Penda
yeah. Penda, 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 penda. Napenda kila kitu kwako mimi napenda, napenda oh napenda. Chukako mimi napenda, napenda, napenda kila kitu kwako mimi napenda. Kila kitu kwako mimi napenda. tukae na undugu, amani na uhuru.
started yesterday. A Kenya story has been done, which you will see shortly, for about 10 years of an imbalance, where we see slow growth in exports compared to imports. It does not reflect the global story of export growth that you will see in a slide that will show you shortly. So this has prompted us to come up with a national trade policy, which the cabinet approved in 2016, December, and thereafter we started engaging on implementation of what is in that policy. So today, Your Excellency, we are presenting to you the highlight of what is in the National Export Development and Promotion Strategy that will be launched before end of this morning session. I therefore welcome you to listen to me briefly in the presentation that will follow. Can you continue? That's the highlight of the presentation, Your Excellency. And it's unfortunate that we don't have the dashboard here that will help you to see what we are presenting. But that is the first story we want to say, Your Excellency. If you look at the graph that is shown here, this is the trade statistics related to goods, imports of goods and exports of goods. And when you see this, you can see the red bar reflects the imports, which tells us the story that Kenya has been a good market for other countries, and they have done well in our market. But when you look at the blue bar, you will see that we have not grown very well, which means that we haven't done very well in other markets. Because we belong to the international community, we believe in free trade. It's about making sure that we also do well. So, if you look at the green, that is a reflection of the widening of the current account, or the imbalance. It has been moving from small to big. And last year, the imports were 1.7 trillion Kenya shillings, or $17 billion, while exports were $6 billion, or 600 billion Kenya shillings. The story of services is, however, different. At least we have done well in the exports of services. So if you look at the red line, that is a reflection of the services, exports of services for Kenya, according to the figures from the central bank. And the gray is imports of services. So we have a surplus in the exports of services, which is reflected in the green or in the blue. But when you combine the surplus in services, which is about $4 billion, together with the deficit in the trade balance of about $11 billion, you get a deficit of around $7 billion. That is our current account deficit. And that is one that we would like to address in the export strategy that we have come up with. Look at that story, Your Excellency. In that chart that we show, yeah, that is the story. Look at the first graph. The first graph is showing exports of the export as percent of GDP, global exports as percent of global GDP. And you can see that export as percent of GDP globally has been going up, which means this is a story for many countries. They have done well in improving their export. The Kenyan story is different. You can see, whereas the rest of the world is going up, you can see we are not doing very well in the chart that shows as percentage of exports to GDP for Kenya. So, realizing this, we came up with a national export, national trade policy. And that policy seeks to focus on two aspects of our trade. First is the narrow range of products, and the second is the narrow range of markets. That is the share of export. If you look at the latest figures for 2017, you will see that you have Pakistan now leading in terms of export destination, having overtaken Uganda last year. Uganda is number 2. Then we have USA. We have countries like Netherlands. In total, 14 countries account for 70%, about 73% of our export. 14 countries. And yet we have over 60 countries that we have preferential market access. So we would like to broaden the market. These are the markets. If you look at it, you look at Africa is our key market. If you look at that, followed by Europe, and then we have Asia. And I think that you can see the rest of the graph. That is also the chart that reflects the products. How have we been doing in terms of products? Tea has been our #1, followed by horticulture. Then we have coffee. 12 products account for about 67% of our total export basket. So again, the story is that we have narrow range of products, and we want to see that we increase. And the story all around this is that a lot of this is still not value added. So we want to diversify, but we also have to make sure that what we diversify. Exports to those two countries, we can say in the total is 40% of our imports are from those two countries, but accounting only for less than 4% of our exports to those countries. So this is a story, it's a market. Those two countries alone account for about 2.5 billion people, and we are seeking to make sure that we get at least more penetration in that market to see that they are able to take up some of our products. So this is why, Your Excellency, we came up with this strategy. We call it Integrated National Export Development and Promotion Strategy. Integrated in the sense that it brings the whole government into this. And also, we are also talking about development because we want to diversify the products. And we are talking of promotion because we want to promote into more markets. So it's about diversification of markets, diversification of products. So last year during the trade week, those who attended would have seen that we launched this, we launched the institutional framework to begin to develop the export strategy. And we formed the sector working groups. And we have gone through this, so we are happy that now we have finalized the strategy, which will be launched shortly. The strategy in total has around 540 pages, but from manufacturing, if you read from page 37 of what you will see shortly, page 37 to 71 concerns manufacturing sector. And here we pair with the State Department of Industrialization. So PS Betty Minor will be leading us on that front, working together with the State Department of Trade. When we go to agriculture, the same thing. The PS in charge of agriculture will be working with us, and it is a very big document, 74 to 184. And then we have livestock. The PS livestock is here, will be working with us also to implement that strategy. Fisheries, mining, oil and gas, handicrafts, and then trading services. And then there are cross-cutting issues also that are important that we implement in this strategy. When I talk of PS, of course there is a cabinet secretary for each ministry, and the cabinet secretaries will be providing leadership. From our ministry, it's going to be Peter Munya, to work with these colleagues to make sure that this strategy is implemented. Because, Your Excellency, the last time we had a strategy was in 2007. We formed one, but it was stillborn because it was never implemented. So we have never had a strategy all along. This time we have come up with this strategy and we are saying implementation, implementation, implementation. That will be our song. We will be pushing everyone to make sure that we implement, because strategies don't help. It is more to have a plan, but more important to execute that plan. So execution is very important. So this is what we did, Your Excellency. In coming up with this strategy, we did situational analysis. And I want to recognize the lead consultant who is here, Bernard Kagira. If you are here, stand, please. You presented yesterday. Bernard Kagira, please stand. He's there. Together with a team of colleagues, they came up with this strategy. And I don't know why it is disappearing. Technical team. Your Excellency, as I wait for this to be shown, we are just saying that we formed sector working groups. And in this sector working groups, we had the private sector. And the chairman of CAM is here, Mr. Sachin Gudka. He can confirm, and he will confirm to us today. And we have also many others. But let me just go back now, because it has come back. Now, this is okay, that is the manufacturing sector. In the manufacturing sector, we have not gone for everything, Your Excellency. We have decided to prioritize. So one of the key subsectors is textile and apparel. And this is a sector we are doing very well already in the US market, accounting for 65% of what we export to the US market. We want to diversify even markets. We have leather and leather products. We have agro-processing. We have oil mining and gas. That is mining as a sector, and then oil and gas. We have iron and steel. We have construction material, ICT assembly, and fish processing, just as some of the things that, some of the priority areas. They are enablers, Your Excellency, that we will be expecting other ministries to support us. Business environment improvement, coming up with the industrial parks and special economic zones. I'm happy the chairperson of the special economic zones is here, Madam Carol Kariuki. She has a job to do here. We have to develop our SMEs. We have to develop our standards, innovation, and issues around intellectual property rights. We have to focus on market access and issues of trade finance. So that is the story on manufacturing. If you look at the performance up to 2016, you can see we have not done very well. Now, we have a steep hill to climb in order to reach where we want. And we want to move from 2018 to by 2022, we need to have seen the value of exports of manufactured goods moving from the current level of around 140-something to about 1.2, as you can see from there. In agriculture, we have also prioritized. We have gone to coffee, and we want to go for value-added and specialty coffee. Tea, again, value-added. A lot of our tea, 98% of what we export now is in bulk. And the value is not much from that. If we could value add, it would really be good. So we are looking at tea as one area to focus on. Then horticulture. And in horticulture, we have cut flower, we have fruits, focusing on mangoes, avocados, passion fruits, and many others. Then we have vegetables, French beans, snow beans, and sugar snaps. And I think we are doing a lot of branding so that we have, instead of French beans, we also want to see Kenya beans. And I think we are in that direction. Then we have herbs. We also have nuts, pulses. We have cut mirah. It's one of those people, some people have been saying we don't need to promote mirah. But cut mirah is one of those we have put in this strategy. And we think that because there is demand and is allowed, a legitimate product should be allowed to be traded. Sisal, we have pyrethrum, we have gamma rabbit, and many, many others that you will see in the strategy. Your Excellency, in this strategy of 512 pages, we have also split into 23 chapters. Those 23 chapters will be shared with you. They will be uploaded already by the end of today on our website. And that is the story of agriculture. If you look at it, it has been from 2016, from 2012, sorry, it has been increasing, but not much. And we want now to improve. Climbing that curve is very steep, but we want to move in the strategic interventions we have indicated. Then livestock, Your Excellency, we have live animals, and this is something put there, but it is not really our intention that we export live animals. We want to go to the next one where we have meat, where we have beef, sheep and goat meat, pork, poultry, donkey meat, and others. In the dairy products, we want to focus on milk and other aspects of milk like liquid, fresh, and long life, condensed milk, butter, oil, ghee, ice cream, powder, and the many others. We also are focusing on honey and others which we have shown in the strategy. So if we look at meat exports, this could probably be one of the areas, one of the subsectors that we have seen some increase in exports of meat. You can see it's been going up, but we want to raise it even higher. The story is different, Your Excellency, when it comes to honey. This, you can see we have not done very well at all in the honey. It has been declining, and we would like to see it going up. The other one is, this is honey. The other one was dairy. Dairy has been declining, and this is honey. It has also been going down. We want to reverse. Then in the fishery sector, and PS Professor has been here. Oh yeah, he's here. Professor, our PS Ntiba, he's going to be leading us. He has already signed up and okayed his chapter, saying we are ready to go. Same to PS Livestock and the others. So in here, we are going to focus on a number of areas, looking at inland waters, fisheries, marine fisheries, and aquaculture. And there is a lot that you will read from here so that I save time. I don't need to present to you. On the fisheries industry, you can see that we have not been also doing well. It has been declining, and we want to move up. Mining sector is new in Kenya. It accounts for about 2% of GDP, but we have seen a lot of effort by our ministry to get us more products. So we see soda ash, fluorspar, titanium, gold, coal, gemstone, manganese, iron, and the rest. And you can see the number of counties producing. All these are in counties like Kajiado, we have Magadi, Elgeyo Marakwet, we have fluorspar, Kwale, we have titanium, and the rest. So counties are going to be working with us a lot in this area. Mining is a very important area that we want to give a lot of emphasis, and the PS Mining has already signed off what is in the strategy. Then we have also, this is the story of mining. It has been increasing, but I think a little bit lower because the numbers are still low. Your Excellency, oil and gas. Recently we were in Turkana, and thanks to the Council of Governors chairman who welcomed His Excellency President and the Deputy President and others, we were able to launch the early oil pilot scheme. This is an area we think if we do well, we may change the story of our imports, because a quarter of our imports are petroleum products. And if we can import substitute that through our own production, I think we will save a lot of foreign exchange. The other one is, I think I'll skip that, handicraft sector. Your Excellency, there are a lot of Kenyans who are in this sector, but they are not organized. So in this strategy, we have come up with ways to organize this sector. And under the AGOA strategy, which will be launched today, there is a lot of focus in this area under what is called home decor. And we are going to focus on handmade, things like fabrics, leather crafts, basketry, woodwork and crafts, metalwork and crafts, jewelry, stone carving, pottery, and many, many others. It's an area that we would like to do well. We haven't been doing well. You can see it has been declining, and we want to make it go up. Services sector, Your Excellency, is also very important. As I said, we are doing well in services. We have a surplus. But this is where we have a comparative advantage. So we want to focus more in the area we have comparative advantage. So we will be looking at business services. Here you are looking at professional services, technicians and associate professionals, crafts and related work, computer and related services, research, leasing, We have also health services. We would like, instead of people traveling abroad, they come to Kenya for medical tourism. And this is an area we want to focus on a lot going forward. Education services. I don't know if CS Amina is here, but CS Amina has already written to me, put forward already on the chapter on education sector. And she's ready to lead her team to implement what we have indicated here. And because of time, Your Excellency, I will not go into it, but a lot is going to be focusing in the area of education on commercial presence, establishment of Kenyan institutions, education institutions, branches of local universities. We need to twin up partnerships with host country universities, and there are areas of human natural presence, which we also want to see focusing on. Then in financial services, yesterday we had Dr. Mwangi, who was here, and we also had KCB presenting to us. These two, the Equity Bank, KCB Bank, are among our banks that have done well in the region. And we want to see more, to see commercial presence out there, presence of natural persons like banking professionals. We want to focus on that. We want to export skilled tourism. So in the area of tourism, we want to also focus on skilled professionals in the tourism sector, conferencing and exhibitions. We want to see enhanced beach tourism, and we want to export many other aspects of safari tourism. Your Excellency, as I finish, there is the transport services. Transport services, we are focusing on marine transport, air transport, road transport, and rail transport. And in ICT services, we want to focus on software development services, services in development of mobile-based phone applications, targeting telemedicine and e-health, and others. Recreation, culture, and sports. This is one area many people have not seen as one to focus on. Yet it is one we have comparative advantage. Sports training institutions in sports Kenya, you know, they are all firmed up around, and we have many people coming to train in Kenya. We want to promote that. We also want to focus on sportsmen and women taking up competitive sports assignments abroad. And Your Excellency, we had planned Sunday this week, and I think we had mentioned to you, we wanted to do what is called running with the champions. And we wanted to bring people in Nairobi, and we do a whole 10-kilometer run. Unfortunately, we could not do it, but we have postponed it to later in the year, around October or September, and we will be welcoming you all to come and run with the champions. There are so many of them, and it's not just running with the athletes. We have also many of our sportsmen, like Joe Kadenge and others who have done very well. People like the lady in Hollywood, Lupita. We want all our celebrities. We want all those who have done well. We come, we honor them. And Your Excellency, I've talked to the PS Sports, Mr. Kaberia, that we look for somewhere to put a hall of fame for all our athletes. And if we are landing at JKIA, we should be telling Kenyans, welcome to the home of champions, because I think we have a good story. So there is a lot we want to do that, and we will welcome you. We will welcome you, Your Excellency, to come, and let's all run. If we can have all the counties present with us on that day, we bring Nairobi to a standstill. And we are expecting Governor of Nairobi to take lead in this, to welcome us. We also want to practice and bring this issue of running to be fit. Because when we exercise, the medical bill goes down. And you need to ask the Governor of Central Bank, who tells us that since he started making his staff to run, he has cut down his medical bill by 30%. Why can't everybody do this? A lot of you, if you did that, the medical bill will come down and we can save the money for something else, so that we don't look at preventive measures, no, curative measures, we focus on preventive measures. So this is my story for now, and I think I come to the end. After running, we want to do a festival in the evening. We want to look at the Kenyan experience, have fun. And today, Your Excellency, we have a school here, Rose of Sharon, who invited me for their second trade week on Saturday, and I thought they should be part of us. Could you stand, Rose of Sharon, if you are here? Children, are you there? Stand. Can you clap for them? Your Excellency, this is a school that has done well, and they have been doing trade exhibitions. And the children are asked to prepare and come and sell. And they were selling, and they made a lot of money. I wish we had time, they could tell their story. The Ministry of Education could take up this and promote this at an appropriate time to inculcate among our young people aspects of doing business. Thank you very much. I think I'm done, Your Excellency. So how do we organize ourselves to make sure that this strategy is implemented? We have sectors, what we call sector working groups. And then under each sector working groups, we have sub-sector working groups. So the way it is going to be done is that we have the minister responsible for trade. He's going to be the one coordinating the whole of us in cabinet and pairing with each of the cabinet secretaries for each sector. But his co-chair, we have proposed, Your Excellency, that it should be the Minister for Finance to co-chair with the Minister of Trade in ensuring this is implemented. Then pairing with each minister responsible for that sector. And then we come down to the technical group, the PSS. And then at the lower level, we also work at the lower level. And at the pairing up, we have private sector. And we have KEPSA, we have CAM, and we have Kenya Chamber of Commerce also involved in this. So, Your Excellency, how much will it require us to implement this strategy? This is just a rough estimate, about 800 billion shillings. And this is going to, how are we going to do it? We are going to realign some of the resources we have within the budget. We would like also to fast-track implementation of some of the donor-funded projects, because some of our donors are supporting us. And actually, in the afternoon of today, we'll be having a forum led by Foreign Affairs to meet with our development partners to discuss how they will support us in this endeavor. We will also fast-track ring-fencing some of the things that we have identified. I want to conclude this way, Your Excellency. This strategy is about increasing exports. And we want to do it in 3 ways. One, we want to diversify the export basket in more value-added and manufactured goods and services. This is what we call product diversification. So who are we going to work with? Products must come from counties. So this is one area we must work with. And I'm happy, I spoke to 2 deputy governors yesterday. They are here, Governor Chebno, Deputy Governor Chebno Stan, and Deputy Governor of Nyeri, Madam Caroline. Both these 2 governors, they spoke to me and they said they will be the first to develop the county engagement, county export strategy, so that we domesticate this export strategy to the counties. And then the counties now work with us, and there is synergy. And before I spoke to you, I had met the governor, the chairman, and also the chairman of the trade committee when I presented before the governors, and they all approved. So I'm sure, Your Excellency, all the counties are going to work with us to produce more. Number 2 is developing the markets. Now, markets is about the national government. So it's about my ministry, and it's about the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and others. We are going to work together to diversify the markets. Already we have the Africa Continental Free Trade Area. We have ratified that agreement after signing. We have the tripartite free trade agreement. We have ratified, and we hope to sign. We have economic partnership agreement, which we still are accessing that market under what is called market access regulation, pending our colleagues from East Africa, hopefully to sign the EPA. Then we have AGOA, and we are engaging at bilateral level with many other countries. So, Your Excellency, we are spot on that. And we are calling it country engagement strategy. That's why today we are launching AGOA. That is our country engagement strategy for the US market. And we are going to do this for all the other markets. Finally, Your Excellency, we want to grow the exporter base. We have a narrow range of competent people who are good in exporting. We want to do this, what we call supplier diversification program. So we want to work with Export Promotion Council, and the chairman is here, and others, working with KEPSA and CAM, to make sure that we broaden. And we don't want only those organized groups like CAM and KEPSA. There are many others who are not members of the associations out there who needs also to be brought in an organized manner. Your Excellency, that is the story we have in this export strategy. And I want to say thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Bwana PS. So who's ready to run with the champions? Let me see hands. Who's ready to do some running?
Yeah, I'll cheer you on. I'll be there. I'm not very good at running, but those are some of the branding elements that are absolutely key to growing the Kenya brand. Just let me tap into a statistic that the PS shared with us there. 14 countries account for 73% of our exports, and yet we have preferential access in 60+ countries. That feels terrible, right? I'll share another African proverb. No one gets a mouthful of food by picking another person's teeth. If we have preferential access, if others have it to us, they're bringing in products, yes or no? And we're not taking advantage of the opportunities that we have. We must close the gap. We are talking about action here, so let me tap into something else that's been mentioned yesterday and today. Kenya exports French beans. I myself in Marks & Spencer UK have bought vegetables from Kenya. French beans, in fact. But we export them under the name French bean. If Mugabe was standing here, he'd say, what's French about that bean, right? So can one of the commitments we make here today be to lobby, to push, and to implement the change of that name from French bean officially to the Kenyan bean? Carol, you're nodding. Can we take that up? Thank you very much. Speaking of food, the next lady I want to introduce is going to give a testimonial, her story. And it's absolutely inspiring. She has some samples with us, so I think she's going to feed a few people this morning if you're willing to try, and I am. Let's give a warm welcome to a woman who has achieved incredible things in the export space with a product called sweet potato. Her name is Perez Ochieng, and she is from Sakoma Global Food Innovations. Let's give her a warm welcome as she comes out. Thank you.
His Excellency, Deputy President, ladies and gentlemen, my fellow Kenyans and friends of Kenya, I am here this morning to kind of recap and finish on what we started yesterday. But before I do that, I just wanted you to remember to take your breakfast and to demonstrate to Julie, because she challenged us yesterday, that those of us who had not eaten Kenyan breakfast in the morning to carry up their hands. This morning, I want you to be able to tell her that you've had your breakfast of Kenyan sweet potatoes. So my colleague is going to give you a sample of the sweet potatoes before I talk about my initiative. And I hope that you'll be able to enjoy, but also we want to demonstrate to the world that you can have sweet potatoes for breakfast without cooking it in the morning. So before I speak, I just want to give our colleagues and their heads from this side. So that is sweet potato snack bar. So one of it is supposed to be enough nutrition for your breakfast in the morning. And this is how we are taking the message of Kenya sweet potatoes globally, demonstrating what is possible. Sweet potato is no longer a poor man's food, but it's a premium product that you can enjoy everywhere in the world. If you forget to take your breakfast in the morning, all you need is one snack bar. I hope everybody will have a chance to taste and perhaps give us feedback later. So I'll get into my presentation. My name is Perez Ochieng. I'm a Kenyan, born in Siaya, married in Homa Bay, with 5 children and a grandchild and a husband. And I've been running my business for the last 20 years, originally focusing on capacity building, training and education, and knowledge transfer partnership with universities. But I felt that I have a burden for my country to be able to come back and share the knowledge and the skills and the networks that I've been able to gain outside of UK. As a Kenyan in the diaspora, I've taken it a burden to choose one of the products that has the least likelihood of being seen as having export potential. And this is sweet potatoes. So I want to demonstrate to those of us who are here today, whether you're a small-scale farmer, a young person, a young entrepreneur, in education, at university, or just a hustler, that whatever product you choose has the potential for being in the global marketplace. It depends on what you do with it. It depends on how you build your own capability to be a brand ambassador and a messenger, and most importantly, how you push into the market. The market is not going to come to us. We are going to have to go into the market and grab a share. As the PS has shown us today, there's a real need for Kenya to look at the balance of trade. We are not looking at the traditional export markets of tea and coffee. Kenya is a very rich country, resourcefully. We've got lots of products agriculturally that can be used as innovative ingredients. So in the last 2 years, I've taken up a challenge on top of everything else that I'm doing to study masters in food innovation and packaging. And this has given me the capability, the authority to be able to stand before you today to present what I'm going to present to you today. So bear with me for the next 5 minutes. I hope it will be an interesting. And now that you've had your breakfast, you have a little bit more energy to be able to concentrate. So yesterday, I talked about how we have done what we've done to be able to access new markets using sweet potatoes, testing the market, developing and redeveloping new products, knowledge transfer, partnership with universities, and sheer promotion and drive into different markets. Going into UK, Europe, other parts of the world like Italy, Canada, Australia, we've taken the sweet potato message there. Kenyan sweet potato is famous. But the question is, how can we scale this up and make an impact so that we can also make a contribution to the Big Four agenda? This is what I want to talk to you about today. So the first thing that I'm looking at is how, as a Kenyan diaspora, how can my activities, the things that inspire me, not just necessarily benefit me economically as a person and my family, but also rewards other people, the social impact that I can create in my business initiative as an entrepreneur, as a committed Kenyan who wants to also to be part of the Big Four agenda. So I'm looking at 4 key areas that we're looking at. How can we be part of the legacy? This is how I want to be able to demonstrate this. So I'll go straight. You've tested the products today, which is a sweet potato snack bar. We've got several ones still on the line. We've got sweet potato pancake if you have time to cook in the morning. We've got the creme brulee for your dessert, and we've got all the other vegetarian products. But that is not the agenda for this afternoon, this morning. This morning, I want to focus on, this is a bit hard to parade. Okay. I want to look at some of the thinking behind developing these products. You have been able to get a piece of the product, but if you look at the packaging, the primary packaging and the secondary packaging, it is fully biodegradable. And when we talk about meeting EU regulation and export markets, there are some of the things that we really need to incorporate in our product development within the industry, as well as the scientists and the people who are developing new products. Where is the world going to? What are the new global trends in food markets? How are we going to access the market? The food market is not just about nutrition. It's about reuse and reuse of resources, natural resources like water and energy. So I want to be able to demonstrate in our product that we are looking at the global context in developing food products. So we have looked at not just the EU and UK regulation on circular economies, recyclability, but we are also looking at developing new products that use less energy. It is pointless to spend 340 kilojoules to develop a product that gives you 4 kilojoules. And that is what most of us do. We do not look at the consumption of energy in developing our products. In developing the Kenya sweet potato industry, we are looking at supplying the global marketplace with a product that is fully using, oh God, I've lost the word. I'll get it. So these are some of the things we're looking at. My first recommendation is for Kenya to look at UK post-Brexit. I know some of us are still wondering what's going to be the opportunities post-Brexit. I am here standing here to tell you today that this is the time for us to push our agenda in UK today. In order for us to force for new trade deals that would enable us to get new products into the market. The route is very simple. You already have Kenyans in the diaspora who have passion and commitment. I stand here to demonstrate that we are committed Kenyans just like we are those who are here today. Use us to be able to access this market, understand the markets, enter into the markets, come in and set up distribution channels and systems through us because we have the knowledge, we have the networks, and we have the ability. And most importantly, we are willing and we have the intellectual ability as well. So this is what I want to demonstrate is first look at what are the post-Brexit opportunities in every product that we are developing. Sweet potato itself is not just a product we are looking to export, it's to how do we now translate what has been proven as a working model in sweet potatoes in developing new products for the global marketplace. One of the things we're looking at is collaboration. I was speaking with a colleague me yesterday. He said, we are not going to grow and scale up in your export if industries are not to collaborate. One of the biggest markets that we have opened for sweet potatoes is in collaboration with big-scale manufacturers in the UK in food manufacturing to replace sweet potatoes with rice so that we are able to produce baby food made out of Kenyan sweet potatoes. This has the capacity to consume 20,000 tons of Kenyan sweet potatoes every month. So collaboration is key. And when we talk about export and growing of the global market, these are the things that we are looking at. I've also looked at the deliverables. So these are basically ideas of how we can work, working with our own farmers and building their capacity to be able to achieve global standards like ISO 2200, BRC, and global GAP certifications. I'm going to run quickly. I can see Julie looking at me. We've looked at logistics. How do we get our products from development into the marketplace? So these are some of the things that I want to work with the government and all of our producers that are interested in this market to look at. I want to run quickly. This is very difficult to operate, by the way. One of the suggestions that I want to suggest to His Excellency today is to look at the importance of knowledge transfer and partnership between industry and universities. Universities are challenging people with knowledge, but how are we using that knowledge to benefit the country? I'm a champion of knowledge transfer partnerships. I would love to see my country set up food business incubation to support businesses that want to start in small business production with laboratory equipment for testing, with facilities for packaging, so that we are able to begin to develop small brands out of small businesses in order for us to scale up. So this is one of the key suggestions that I thought would be important for me to mention in my today, food business incubation and acceleration. Further testing. To get to use sweet potatoes in ingredient manufacturing has taken a lot of, in terms of formulation, testing, and all these other activities. And I'm really getting nervous because Julie is really behind my back. And these are some of the products that we want to be able to test and take into the market using Kenyan sweet potatoes. I stand here before you today to demonstrate to you that it's possible. We only have to think. This morning I was asked, how do you do it? You've got to be an innovative and innovate yourself and also rescale yourself to be able to do new things. And the market is there for us to take a share of. Ladies and gentlemen, let me take this opportunity to say thank you for being a very beautiful and listening audience. And I'm welcome to you.
Thank you. Your Excellency, Honorable William Ruto, the Deputy President of the Republic of Kenya, it's really hard to go after Paris because I'm not selling something as good as her.
but I think now that we have a little energy, we can listen to a few of the things that we've been doing. Thank you very, very much for this morning, and to see all of you, and thank you, the Deputy President, for really honoring us. As KEPSA, the umbrella body of the private sector, on behalf of all our members, KAM, Shippers Council, KFC, and others who are here, I really want to join the State Department in welcoming all of you into the National Trade Week as some of the co-hosts, and the Export Promotion Council for this wonderful opportunity, not only to showcase our made in Kenya products, but also to engage with the business, government, development partners, and different stakeholders on expanding our exports and markets. Listening to the PS Chris, it's a bit depressive when we think about all that we have in this country, and that we have not, we've been a good market for everyone else, but not getting out there. And so we really hope that this will really be the the game changer from today. Your Excellency, we thank you so much for continued partnership with the private sector, especially in setting up an enabling policy framework to support trade and investment in our country. We have been fully involved in development of the National Export Strategy, the National Trade Policy, the Northern Corridor Integrated Projects, LAPSET, Mombasa Port Charter, which we co-chair with government, among other initiatives aimed at enhancing movement of goods and services along the Northern Corridor. KEPSA is now part of the Trade Negotiation Council, as well as the Trade Facilitation Committee, through which we are able to really contribute in matters trade and investment. Your Excellency, we continue to partner and work closely with our peers around the world to promote trade globally. We have forged relationships with strategic organizations, especially around trade and where we've had issues or where we really want to expand. I mentioned trade, Tanzania Private Sector Federation. For many of us who operate in that region, we know the challenges we've heard. About 507 of our companies are registered under the Tanzania Investment Council, but we know many other companies of Kenya operate in Tanzania. And so we've really been working closely with our counterpart, and we have an agreement on identifying and mutually pursuing issues that impede the free movement of goods and services, capital and labor across our border. We've also achieved this through peer-to-peer dialogue, and we're optimistic that as we continue to engage, we'll resolve some of those issues. We've also hosted high-level business delegations from around the world, scouting for opportunities in our country, and just last month alone, as a business, we did have delegations from the US, Singapore, and in partnership with Exports Promotion Council, we also participated in Made in Kenya Trade Week in Dar es Salaam to showcase our products. In addition, we have established a business hub to which investors with opportunities available in Kenya, and this is more to our development partners here as you talk to businesses from the countries you come from, that we do have a business hub to connect businesses with financiers and provide information on business climate, investment and trade opportunities, and we access, and that we can access our partnership with Ken Invest and others. There's also great potential in special economic zones, and so I wear two hats as I speak about this, as KEPSA and also as Special Economic Zones Authority, that could turn around our exports in solving the economic challenges we are facing. We all know that an average of 1 million youth join the job market every year, with an employment rate estimated at 42% as of 2017. This brings the figure close to 8.1 million unemployed youth. In 12 years' time, we'll be talking of another 6 million jobless youth joining the 8.1 million, leaving us with a puzzle on how to create more than 14.1 million jobs. Your Excellency, this calls for rapid industrialization and increased value addition, industries that are competitive in our economy. There's no better answer than to capitalize on the special economic zones. There are three that are envisioned in the Vision 2030. That is the Greater Mombasa, Lamu, and Kisumu. And we can add one more, and with a combined potential of creating 15 million jobs by 2030 and increase the value of our exports. Our neighbor and partner in EAC, Rwanda, are taking the giant steps. In 2017, companies located in the Kigali Special Economic Zone exported goods worth $43.6 million from $5.5 million in 2016. That's 554% increase with one special economic zone. And we have good examples. China, which is almost a subcontinent, has only about 4 to 5. Singapore has 1, Rwanda has 1. If we establish just 3 in the next 5 years, we could really meet this gap. To enhance trade and increase our exports, we are keen on working with your government to provide critical infrastructure and attracting investments to ensure the special economic zones take off. To increase value addition in our industries, we will harness the potential presented by big data, artificial intelligence, and utilization of blockchain technology to enhance competitiveness of our industries. In addition, we'll continue to work with the multi-agency team on illicit trade to safeguard our local markets, as we committed in May presidential roundtable when we presented this issue and asked that the government would make it actually a national tragedy. We also are looking forward to the establishment of the Development Bank to avail affordable finance to our local producers and Biashara Fund to our SMEs. I look forward to a day when a Kenyan company and a Ugandan company or a Tanzanian company can form a joint venture and go and invest in Nigeria or invest in Tunisia. We've seen many companies, Bechtel, which is a joint company in the UK and the US, coming to Kenya. Why can't we do the same as we look at the free trade area and the opportunities that are there? To sustain this momentum, investors need assurance of operation and security, therefore of their investments. We raised the issue again during that roundtable of a predictable policy environment during the PRT. We've seen some of our investments, Kinango Power, Base Titanium Project, and Lake Turkana Wind Power Transmission to newly targeted oil project in Kenya face some of these challenges that really affect us, especially political interference. These projects offer an opportunity in expanding the Big Four agenda through direct and indirect linkages. For example, the Project Oil Kenya has a potential of spurring the manufacturing industry through an absorption of over 2 million tons of construction materials. Imagine how many jobs that would be. But what we're seeing now happening around there, and I really am glad that the chair of COG is here and my good friend, Mr. Nanok, we really hope we can really work to resolve those challenges together so that we can create these jobs through even auxiliary services, not only what oil can provide. So in conclusion, if these issues are not addressed, they will not only impair the attainment of Big Four agenda, but send jobs away and scare away potential investors from pitching in our country. We are really among the suitors of many countries that are looking for investors, and especially Africa. May this Trade Week not be another great conference, but an action-oriented conference that we can look back next year with pride of the steps we will have made in our trade and our exports. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for that, Carol. Private sector is a key partner. I just want to recognize a few other partners. Dr. Muhisa Kitui, Secretary General of UNCTAD, thank you for making the time to join us. We can give him a round of applause. He'll be up on the panel shortly. I want to just recognize and mention Trademark East Africa has been a key partner. Also, we have with us the African Development Bank, and we'll have Gabriel Ngatu with us on the panel a bit later as well, and I'll continue to recognize our partners as we go along. Next is another partner, and a partner that really is a facilitator for everybody in the space of building Kenya. We're going to hear now from the newly named chairman of the Brand Kenya board. Let's give a warm welcome to Linus Gitahi as he comes up. Thank you. And I'm taking these away with me.
Your Excellency, Deputy President, Honorable William Samoei Ruto, our Cabinet Secretary, Bwana Peter Munya, Dr. Muhisa Kitui, our UNCTAD Secretary General, other cabinet ministers who may be present, permanent secretaries, all protocols observed, and I also want to especially appreciate the COG chair, Bwana Nanok. Ladies and gentlemen, I promise to ensure that Julie does not come and start behind me, as I can see she's been doing. So I want to say I'm delighted to be here today with the rest of the stakeholders in this very important gathering of minds. Kenya is a transforming nation, and what better way to witness this transformation, ladies and gentlemen, than to see the creativity, the ingenuity, the authentic and high-quality products on display out there, and I hope everybody has had a chance to go to see them. The theme of powering Kenya's Big Four agenda is timely and most appropriate. It denotes Kenya's most pressing needs, ladies and gentlemen, namely accelerating the pace of creating wealth and narrowing the income gaps by increasing labor production, increasing economic stability through trade, and generating more decent and productive jobs for our people. These critical imperatives can only be achieved by strengthening Kenya's manufacturing base, and I'm glad that, that this is one of our core, or the government's core objectives. Distinguished guests, as a custodian of the Kenya brand, we at Brand Kenya board believe that the Big Four will propel the country's brand to greater heights of prosperity by helping to focus on the citizens, the investors, tourist development partners, and indeed help the country take pride of place in the global arena through its many offerings that gets brought together through a common identity. As we work towards the fulfillment of this agenda, we are persuaded that Kenyans are some of the most significant stakeholders in the journey, and we must all believe in a prosperous future of this nation. This will be at the core of our focus and communication as we move forward. We shall deliberately consolidate, package, and communicate the milestones achieved, big or small, and we must keep celebrating these milestones, because oftentimes we know that negative forces of doom and gloom often take center stage and overshadow solid achievements that Kenyans continue to record. In this regard, Brand Kenya will endeavor to work with all implementing agencies to create awareness of the projects and their impacts to lives, their impact to families, their impact to communities, to the counties, and to the nation at large. Ladies and gentlemen, as the world becomes increasingly competitive, the need for countries to differentiate themselves is a necessary imperative. Countries have more than ever before begun to pay greater attention to their image and indeed how to manage the perceptions held towards them in a coordinated and purposeful manner. This is in recognition of the possible correlation between a country's perceptions and economic performance. Our image, therefore, is something that we shall work with everybody in helping to achieve the Kenya brand that we all desire to build. A Kenya of shared prosperity, a Kenya where the opportunities abound, and particularly a Kenya where young people's dreams are nurtured and realized. With Vision 2030 clearly articulating where we need to go, and the Big Four agenda giving us the necessary focus to accelerate this plan, Brand Kenya will identify the branding gap between our traditional attractiveness and the bold new Kenya that we all wish to create. As a first step, Brand Kenya has identified 5 strategic pillars where we believe that we ought to rally behind in creating this brand. We support areas like foreign direct investments, innovation, particularly innovation in services and even in manufacturing, so that we can bridge that gap that has been presented by the PS this morning. Tourism, and most importantly, Kenyans themselves, our attitude, the way we carry ourselves, wherever we are. And that's why I'm delighted that we have somebody like Perez, who is already a Kenyan ambassador out there doing great stuff, and we need to keep celebrating that as we encourage her along. A fifth, however, of those imperatives is local direct investments. Oftentimes, and I think most of the times that we talk about investments, in fact, investment has almost become synonymous with foreign direct investments. I think it's also high time that we really focus on local direct investment because ultimately that is what will be sustainable in the fullness of time. What we have outside, Your Excellency, is the sort of industries that we would like to support because those industries make tomorrow's multinationals. In fact, show me a country without thriving multinationals, and I'll show you a poor country. A vibrant manufacturing sector and export businesses would drive even faster if there is a uniform and combined branding of all our made in Kenya products and services. Over time, we have become strong exporters of tea, as was shown, coffee, horticultural products, etc. Now, as we move to the next level of value addition of these products and other products, Brad Kenya is launching an initiative to have a common mark of identity that will distinguish these products as proudly made in Kenya. This brand mark will differentiate quality products as Kenyan-made, which will boost the awareness and uptake of those products and serve as an easier vehicle for even newer products that will be hitting the international market. This will also contribute to bringing down some of the marketing costs because many of them showing Brad Kenya is already, or made in Kenya, is already a big step in the marketing of those products. Particularly in those destinations, and hopefully create loyalty amongst consumers who have long valued products from Kenya, but who oftentimes cannot distinguish them. This Made in Kenya brand mark was developed by Brad Kenya Board and Management in consultation with the industry stakeholders like KEPSA, like KAM, like KEBS, like Horticultural Crops Development Authority, among others, and of course, the State Department of Trade, to which I would want to appreciate the PS who's been extremely supportive. We hope to campaign it shortly amongst the stakeholders, starting with all of us in this room. So ladies and gentlemen, in conclusion, we call upon all the manufacturers, producers, SMEs to adopt the Made in Kenya brand mark so that we can all go to the world as one. To all the people in the room, you are the brand champions. So we start with you as our brand champions, and we count on you to be our early adopters and help to drive the right, positive narrative about where we are headed, not just in the manufacturing space, not just in the service space, but actually about Kenya in general. I thank you for listening. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Linus, and we'll be launching that Made in Kenya mark of identity this morning. Let me now welcome to come up and share his thoughts with us, Jas Bedi, Chairman of the Export Promotion Council. Let's give him a warm welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, Julie, and good morning to you all. Your Excellency, Deputy President of the Republic of Kenya, Bwana Ruto, Cabinet Secretary, Minister of Industrialization, Trade and Competitiveness, Bwana Munya, my dear friend, UNCTAD Secretary General Mukisa Kitui, Chairman of the Council of Governors, Principal Secretaries present here, other Cabinet Secretaries present here, Captains of Industry, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, all protocols observed. I'm actually very delighted to be here on day 2 of this Kenya Trade Week and Exposition, and very delighted to see so many of you and a house that's really full. Thank you very much. Yesterday, we discussed 2 very important subjects. One was the National Export Strategy and the development of diversified products, and the other was the National AGOA Strategy. A lot has been said on this by the PS, Bwana Kipto, and I don't want to do a deep dive into it, but I guess a lot of you already know, and you were already here yesterday. The mandate of the Export Promotion Council was to develop and promote Kenyan exports, addressing bottlenecks facing exporters of goods and services. And in this respect, the EPC, 2 years ago when I took over as chairman, decided to go back to our constituents, to go back to our exporters, to go back and ask them, what are your pain areas? And we did a survey with the Kenya Association of Manufacturers, we did a survey with the Kenya Private Sector Alliance, with the Chamber of Commerce, with individual companies, and we asked each and every one of them, if we take your pain away, what can you do to encourage exports? And based on that, we built an entire strategic plan for the next 5 years where we're only going to address the pain areas. As predicted, the pain areas had a common denominator. 15 different sectors came up with 8 pain areas, which was 80% of our problem. So I said to my board that I need to put 20% effort to actually sort out 80% of Kenya's export problems. So happy to say that, Your Excellency, that we have today a strategic plan. We had board members attached to chief managers and managers attached to 2 managers who would actually run with one point, which is a pain area, and those pain areas are what we have looked at that we must address. We also looked at our relevance, that are we just exporting and comparing ourselves with our neighbors? Because most African countries, they just come and they say, wow, we're doing so well against this country in Africa, and we're doing so well against that country in Africa. And we looked at this whole dynamics and said, guys, we are in the export business, and we're not here to compare ourselves with a neighboring country or a country within Africa. We need to be looking at global competitiveness. We need to be looking at global markets. And for that reason, we actually changed our tagline. Our tagline today is inspiring global global trade. And what constitutes the global trade? How will we take a bigger slice of the pie? I think that's really where this whole agenda is being driven to, and that can't come with us being globally competitive. So we've looked at what constitutes to competitiveness, what should we do, and how should we change our export fortunes, which, as we all know, have not been too well. Our exports last year were approximately $6 billion. Our imports increased from 1.4 trillion in 2016 to 1.7 trillion. That tells you that something is seriously wrong, that our imports are actually increasing, and today we have $11 billion that we import. And that's something very, very serious, because if we're importing more than producing locally or exporting, there's something that we're not doing right. So we've looked at what are we importing and where are we importing from. And like the PS said, we're importing the largest amount of goods from China and India, $5.5 billion, 2 countries. And we need to see what items are we importing and what are we doing. And surely some of those items can be made locally. And surely some of those items are easily import substitutable. I was talking to somebody yesterday. I don't know why we import a fork and a knife. Surely we can make a knife and a fork. And we've got Mabati rolling mills and all sorts of mills in the company. And all we need to do is add a little bit of value on those items. So to bridge that deficit of $11 billion, we've decided as a board that we, and as a council, that we need to really spur that economic growth, really spur the export. And our agenda in line with Vision 2030 is to have a zero-sum game. A zero-sum game meaning that we will increase our export by 15% year on year for the next 12 years, so that by 2030, we're not importing much, we're exporting much, and we have a neutral ground. And that's where we want to take this whole business. And we've actually mapped out the size of the pie and the slice of the pie. What is coming out from which country, what can we manufacture locally, and we will give that list to Can Invest. So if there's an investor out there who wants to invest in a particular sector, we'll tell him, well, these items we are already importing, the market is here in Kenya, you just need to plug and play and get into that sector and start doing business. We also talked about the Kenya agenda of manufacturing contribution to be 15% by 2022. That is a seriously tall order. That is 36% growth year on year from now till 2022. So we have to do different things to actually deliver different results. We can't do more of the same and expect different results. We've been looking at 5 KYCs, and I talked about this yesterday. The first KYC in export is know your competitor, because if you don't know who you're selling against, you will not be able to sell. The second KYC is to know your customer. What does he really want? Are we really making what he wants, or are we just pretending that we want to go and export? Because that's probably not what the customer wants. Then, of course, know your company. What is your core competence and strength? What is your competitive advantage? Why should anybody buy from you? And number 4 was know your country. Our country has great demographics. It's got a port of Mombasa. We're on the equator. We are probably the only country in the world, I think there are two others, Uganda and Ecuador as well, that are on the equator, on high altitude, that don't need to heat the air or cool the air. That's a great competitive advantage. If you're in the northern hemisphere, you're either heating the air or cooling the air, and the same for southern hemisphere. So our costs of doing business technically should be the lowest in the world because we're not heating or cooling the air during winter and summer. And then, of course, know your county. What are our counties doing? What can we do differently? So I'm happy to say, Your Excellency, we have mapped out 47 counties, and I personally delivered in the Devolution Conference all the findings of our 47 counties on what their core competencies are, what they should export, what we can do, and how we can take them to the marketplace. Because there's no point growing mangoes in an area where you really can't grow mangoes. So we've actually mapped that out, and we have a booklet here we can share with each and every county that what should be done. So, ladies and gentlemen, as we grow our market space and as we continue growing, we are seeing lots of opportunities. There are opportunities everywhere. And if you look at our doorstep, in East African community, we are 174 million people, $164 billion market size. Huge market opportunity for our exporters, and that's duty-free, quota-free market. If you expand that a little bit further, COMESA, huge market opportunity. We have 370 million people, $650 billion market, huge opportunity, duty-free, quota-free. We've just ratified the TFTA, the Tripartite Free Trade Agreement between SADC, COMESA, and EAC. Again, huge market opportunity for us to grow into this 26-country market. And what we've just signed is the CFTA, the Continental Free Trade Agreement, 1.2 billion people, $2.2 trillion market. And 2 weeks ago, I met the Trade Minister of Ghana in Washington, and I said to him, thank you that you and us, Kenya and Ghana, were the only two countries who ratified very quickly the CFTA and deposited the instruments in the African Union. I said, why can't Kenya and Ghana take this lead? Why can't Kenya and Ghana have a bilateral agreement even before the other 22 or 44 countries sign up? At least the two of us can start trading. So East Africa and West Africa should be pioneers in doing trade. And of course, the EU market we can't forget, 517 million people, $19.7 trillion market size, the US under AGOA, 327 million, $7 trillion market. So opportunities everywhere. And if we can have bilaterals with China and India, maybe we can look at that market size as well. And so we see lots of opportunities everywhere. And we encourage our exporters that don't worry about the pain areas. We are addressing them, and we will make sure that we deliver and take this pain away. Finally, I know my time is up, and I need to sit down, but I must say that we are going to launch today something which has never been happened before. We're going to launch the Kaya Awards, which is the Kenya Exporter of the Year Award. We're going to start recognizing our exporters year on year in different sectors and telling them, guys, thank you very much. You've done well. You've made us proud. And with that, I say asante sana, and thank you for listening to me.
Thank you, Jazz. We are live on TV, we are live on NTV, and we do want to capture the launch of our strategic reports and the launch of the mark of identity as well. We don't want to be cut off with time, so I'm going to beg the additional speakers who are coming up here for keynote remarks to please keep them as brief as possible so we can then go into a quick panel session and make the launch and have it all captured for the whole country across Kenya and of course beyond on social media platforms. Ladies and gentlemen, next we have Sachin Gudka, Chairman of the Kenya Association of Manufacturers. Thank you, Sachin, as quickly as possible and kindly as briefly as possible. Asante.
His Excellency, the Deputy President of the Republic of Kenya, William Ruto, Cabinet Secretary, Ministry of Industrialization and Enterprise Development, Mr. Peter Munya, Principal Secretary, State Department of Trade, Dr. Chris Kipto, Principal Secretary, State Department of Industrialization, P.S. Betty Maina, other Cabinet Secretaries, Principal Secretaries present, Chairman, Council of Governors, Honorable Josephat Nanok, UNCTAD Secretary General, Dr. Mukisa Kitui, EU Ambassador to Kenya, Ambassador Stefano Dejac, Deputy British High Commissioner to Kenya, Susie Kitchens, Regional Director, African Development Bank, Mr. Gabriel Negatu, Chairman KEPSA, Nick Nesbitt, Chairman of EPC, Jaswinder Bedi, Chairman Brand Kenya Board, Linus Gitahi, CEOs, industry leaders, members of the Diplomatic Corps, all protocols observed. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. I speak for the Kenya Association of Manufacturers in saying that it is indeed a great honor to be part of the Trade Week for the second year running, and we're glad that our continued partnership with the ministry will see us deliver even more of such summits in the future together. Your Excellency, exports play a hugely vital role in every country's economy. Contrary to what is happening in world trade nowadays, we believe trade is not a zero-sum game. And all countries, including our partner states in EAC, can benefit from free trade to grow their economies. Every country benefits if they could produce what they make the best at the lowest price. Kenya's economic growth, job and wealth creation go hand in hand with a thriving value-add sector and an export market. For the last 5 years, Kenya's manufacturing contribution to GDP is on a declining trend and currently sits at 8.3% of GDP. We're also seeing a decline in exports to our regional markets. In order to achieve the Big Four agenda, manufacturing has to grow to 15% by the year 2022. This will require a laser-sharp focus on becoming an export-oriented economy. If we are to be strong exporters, Your Excellency, competitiveness must be addressed. At present, Kenya is at a cost disadvantage of nearly 12% on most of the goods it manufactures compared to competitor countries. It is absolutely vital that this cost imbalance be addressed as a matter of priority. The competitiveness can be classified into inbound, in-process, and outbound. Approximately 7% out of the 12% cost disadvantage comes from inbound costs, including IDF, RDL, and logistics cost. The in-process cost amounts to approximately 2%, mainly comprising power and water. Unfortunately, this is going to go up. The power cost for industry was reviewed yesterday by ERC, showing almost a 36% increase in base tariffs for power from the 1st of July. Your Excellency, we asked for a reduction in power in the last 2 PRTs on manufacturing, and unfortunately, we've now been hit with an increase. I think this goes contrary to the competitiveness agenda. The outbound cost comprises 3% out of the 12%, primarily relating to distribution and supply chain and delayed payments as well. Your Excellency, we've had discussions with the Ministry of Finance and proposed a revenue-neutral mechanism for reducing IDF and RDL for industrial inputs for manufacturers. However, there always appear to be reasons to say it cannot be done, rather than finding creative solutions around this matter. Your Excellency, let us make it business unusual and not business as usual. Your Excellency, we request for an executive decision from the Investment Council that you chair to allow at least the IDF and RDL relating to industrial inputs for all exports only to be brought to zero immediately. This 3.5% improvement in competitiveness will have the immediate impact of recovering approximately $400 million in lost exports to EAC alone. This is tremendous. Your Excellency, there's a major disincentive to export for most companies after the Ministry of Finance changed the rules on VAT refunds. In addition, delays in payment of VAT refunds of up to 3 years is a major impediment for manufacturers. Our ask, Your Excellency, if we're to really grow exports, is that the law be amended such that KRA pays VAT refunds within 90 days of application or will pay interest on overdue amounts at 2% per month. which is similar to what KRA charges to companies. This will eliminate cash flow issues, reduce borrowing, increase jobs and investment, and propel exports. KAM is willing to partner with government and the private sector to bring about lasting and practical solutions in driving down costs through the entire supply chain, enabling Kenya to be really competitive in world markets. We propose a model based around an efficient consumer response mechanism which works successfully in Asia, enabling the growth of the Asian tiger economies. Your Excellency, let us create our own African lion economy through this mechanism. Just in conclusion, with today's launch of the export strategy, we've carried out deep dives in both tea value addition and apparel and textile. Your Excellency, the world chocolate market is worth $100 billion annually. The two largest cocoa growing countries, Cote d'Ivoire and Ghana, only earn $5 billion out of that $100 billion, since all the value addition is done outside those countries. We have a similar situation with our exports of tea, coffee, hides and skins, amongst others. If we're earning X through exporting these products in raw form, we can earn at least 5X through value addition at source in Kenya. Our deep dive in tea foresees the creation of 81,000 direct jobs and 305,000 indirect jobs in tea value chain integration by 2022. The economy can experience a multiplier effect of $3 billion till 2022, including tea processing, packaging, logistics, etc. This will no doubt attract new investment along the tea value chain and harness SME growth. Similarly, in the textile apparel sector, where the association envisages full value chain integration from cotton to fashion, industry proposes to create an extra 220,000 new direct jobs in value chain integration by 2022, increase exports from $355 million per annum last year to $1 billion per annum by 2022, resulting in accumulated forex earnings of $3 billion by 2022. This will further result in new investments of $1.4 billion in value chain integration by 2022. Your Excellency, sector-specific interventions will be required to ensure we capitalize on these huge opportunities. We request an opportunity to present these business plan proposals through the Ministry of Industry to your Investment Council. We also call upon regular reviews of the manufacturing pillar at the presidential roundtables which you chair, so that the impetus is not lost. Lastly, Your Excellency, it's time we comprehensively address the whole issue of competitiveness and embrace export-oriented industrial activities to deliver the manufacturing pillar in your Big Four agenda. KAM is celebrating 60 years later this year, and will be showcasing manufactured products at the KAM show at Kasarani Stadium from 31st October to the 5th of November. We'll be sending an invitation to you to officially open this biggest ever show for manufactured products ever in Kenya. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Sachin. I apologize for my uncomfortable presence next to you, but you will forgive me. I'm trying to drive this agenda along. Next, representing Nick Haley, the British High Commissioner to Kenya, is the Deputy High Commissioner, Susie Kitchen. Susie, as brief as possible, please. Thank you.
Thank you. Your Excellency, the Deputy President of the Republic of Kenya, William Ruto, Cabinet Secretary, Principal Secretaries, Captains of Industry, Ambassadors, High Commissioners, and distinguished guests. I'm delighted to be here representing the United Kingdom today at this important event that marks another milestone in Kenya's trade agenda. The export development and promotion strategy that is being unveiled today, along with several other recent initiatives in the trade sector, is an important step in unlocking Kenya's trade potential, sustaining growth, and creating jobs in line with Vision 2030 and the Big Four agenda. The UK, along with other international partners, has been working closely with the Government of Kenya to explore opportunities to implement this new strategy. As part of our contribution, the United Kingdom recently announced a new phase of the Trademark East Africa programming, including support of about 2.8 billion Kenya shillings for the implementation of the export strategy. Kenya remains a key trade partner for the United Kingdom, with total UK-Kenya trade at approximately 133 billion Kenya shillings. Visits this year from our International Development Secretary and Trade Minister underline how important this partnership is to us. Over half of the tea we drink in the UK comes from Kenya, and as a nation of tea drinkers, we are keen to keep it that way. Similarly, Kenyan roses dominate the UK market and make many Brits happy on Valentine's Day. We are, of course, focused on ensuring that there is no disruption to this as the UK leaves the European Union. Over recent months, the UK team has met several times with PS Kiptu and his colleagues, and we've made good progress to plan for trade continuity once we leave the EU. The implementation period will enable Kenyan exports to continue to enter the UK without any tariffs or quotas, protecting markets for those important flowers, tea, and other exports. The UK is working hard to negotiate a deal with the European Union, and we are working with Kenya to maintain trading arrangements under a range of negotiating scenarios with the EU. We want to provide the strongest possible platform to deepen our trade relationships in future. I must note that while trade between Kenya and the UK is fairly balanced at the moment, recent analysis shows that Kenya's share of the UK market has been declining since 2008. Fortunately, this is not because we are drinking less tea in the UK or giving less thought to Valentine's Day, but it is mainly due to competition from Kenya's peers and neighbours who produce and export similar products to the UK. There are immediate opportunities to stem this tide and grow both trade with and investment into Kenya, as PS Kiptu so eloquently outlined earlier. One example which the PS touched upon and the export strategy launched here today highlights is oil and gas as an expected driver for export growth. Kenya has demonstrated significant progress already with the launch of the Early Oil Pilot Scheme last month. Disappointingly, operations have had to be suspended due to disruptions, and this has caused significant losses both for the companies and the government of Kenya, and put at risk US $3 trillion worth of investment and future exports. Such challenges highlight the need for a systematic and constructive approach to dealing with these issues by all involved, the companies, the communities, and the government. We hope that the export development strategy launched here today will support these efforts and others like them to bring about positive growth from which we can all benefit. We have a lot at stake. The UK is the largest cumulative commercial investor in Kenya, with over 200 UK companies operating here, and 4 of your top 10 corporate taxpayers in Kenya are headquartered in the UK. This represents not just a long history of partnership, but an opportunity for greater shared prosperity between our two countries, and we look forward to continuing to work on this. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. Our next speaker is the governor of one of the most beautiful counties in this country. If you haven't been there, if you don't know anything about it, I encourage you to find out more. It's also possibly one of the wealthiest, and he's transforming it. Hopefully he transforms it fast. Let's give a warm welcome to Governor Josephat Nanok, the chairman of the Council of Governors. Thank you.
Your Excellency, the Deputy President, Honorable William Ruto, the Cabinet Secretary, Minister of Trade, Industry and Cooperatives, Honorable Peter Munya, Cabinet Secretaries and Principal Secretaries present, heads of missions, my colleagues, the governors, private sector representatives, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of the Council of Governors, I would like to take this opportunity to thank the Ministry of Trade, Industry and Cooperatives through the State Department of Trade for initiating the Kenyan Trade Week beginning last year, an annual trade and exposition forum. This noble idea brings together all the stakeholders in the trade sector to showcase trade achievements in the country and provide a platform for the policymakers to discuss critical issues affecting the sector and remedies to be adopted. It is indeed my pleasure and that of county governments to join in this conversation. This year's Trade Week comes at a time when His Excellency the President has set the development priorities through the Big Four agenda. County governments are integral in the achievement of the Big Four agenda and are in full support of the agenda. Trade is a critical enabler in achieving the Big Four agenda, and I believe that the deliberations that will be going on this week will go a long way in addressing important issues in this sector. To begin with, I would like to highlight that local trade is a devolved function under the Constitution, but there is a close interface between the national and county governments for us to achieve industrialization, create jobs for our youth, and increase our share of local consumption and export in the international market. Since the advent of devolution, we've had a relatively good working relationship between the two levels of government in discharge of our mandates as envisioned in the Constitution. And this has seen gradual spurred local economies in support of international trade. This close working relationship has also led to the development of the national trade policy that was launched last year, the development of the Kenya e-trade portal, and the national export development strategy, just to mention a few. We applaud these achievements since they are an indication that national and county governments can work collaboratively in the achievement of their mandates. This notwithstanding, we need to strengthen the Intergovernmental Forum on Trade in the sector to ensure that moving forward, we have a more coordinated and seamless modality of engagement between the two levels of government to ensure that we tackle emerging issues in the sector and harness what has already been achieved. I am glad this morning as we speak, the new Cabinet Secretary in charge of trade, my friend and former colleague, Governor Munya, understands the importance of intergovernmental mechanisms. On the launch of National Export Development Strategy, we would like to thank the Principal Secretary Trade, Dr. Chris Kiptoo, leadership in the development of the strategy and ensuring that our county executives in charge of trade were consulted during the development of the strategy. This is a good indication that our mandate as counted do not end at domestic trade promotion only, but we also have a role in international trade development and vice versa. The component of the strategy largely focuses on agriculture, a devolved function, hence making county governments center stage in the achievement and success of our export initiative. This means that we must work together as both levels of government to ensure that we deal with all bottlenecks, which include meeting the required standards by local producers, especially in agricultural products, reducing the cost of doing business, counterfeit products, among others, which is affecting the sector in the country. County governments have been working on their own to support exportable products in their counties due to lack of a framework that was bringing both levels of government together on exports. We have grappled with issues related with standards, value addition, market intelligence, and information sharing opportunities available in the international market. This has led to poor market linkage and lack of proper information on available opportunities like the AGOA and other trade opportunities that small-scale businesses can leverage on. I would like to take this opportunity to urge the ministry to engage each county and develop 47 county export development strategies for the evaluations to ensure that we achieve this noble cause optimally, which can be consolidated in blocks. The Kenya Bureau of Standards, Kenya Plant Health Inspectorate, and the other standard bodies dealing with exports to work with county governments to train both county officials and producers to ensure that we meet the standards. This will ensure that we have concentrations in blocks or counties on how to grow a particular value chain for export market. To ensure that our export market expands, we must ensure collectively that our domestic trade is stable and we reduce imports on products that can be grown, manufactured, or value added locally. I would like to urge the State Department of Trade to bring together all stakeholders involved in trade development at the national level to discuss with counties on how we can synergize and avoid duplication and wastage of public resources. The State Department of Trade should work with county governments to develop county investment profiles, which will guide their trade development, where Export Promotion Council, Can Invest, Brand Kenya will be brought on board to ensure that the profiles are all inclusive. In conclusion, the efforts in the strategy and the conversations that will be undertaken this week are geared towards the growth of our economy and creation of job opportunities. County governments are committed to the cause and will be part of solutions in the achievement of the Big Four agenda, export development and fight against illicit trade. I now take this opportunity to convey a special message of gratitude to all those who took part in the development and finalization of the policy. It is a job well done. I look forward to mutual partnership among the national government, county government, universities, technical and research institutions, and the private sector to foster productivity, innovation, value addition in order to enhance a comparative advantage that will raise the bar of our competitiveness in the global market. I thank you and God bless you.
Asante sana, Governor Nanop, for that. If I could now ask, please, Governor, if you could take a seat on the front row. Jas Bedi as well, if you could take a seat on the front row. Yes, Bona PS, and to the Deputy High Commissioner. Thank you very much. Let me now welcome for a very focused panel session Under Secretary General of the United Nations and Secretary General of UNCTAD, Dr. Muhisa Kitui, please make your way up and join us up here. Gabriel Nengatu, please join us up here. Regional Director of African Development Bank. Can we also have Honorable Wycliffe Wangamati, who was with us yesterday, fascinating discussions, Chair of the Trade and Investment Committee, Council of Governors. Please join us up here, Governor. And Stefano Dejak, who is the Ambassador of the European Union to the Republic of Kenya. Please do join us up here as well. Thank you. We'll just get everybody mic'd. Thank you very much, gentlemen. And Your Excellency, thank you for making the time to be here. I don't want to belabor the points that have been made. We know what the problem is. We know what the numbers are. We know what the challenges are. This is and should not be a conference. It should be an action area where we engage, we partner, we change things. Your Excellency, I'm going to ask you first to listen to people on the panel. I'll come to you last for your thoughts and your comments. But what I want from each of us is we are in a room with key stakeholders in different sectors, right? No nonsense now. Who do you need to be speaking to? And what do you want them to do in order to enhance Kenya's capacity in trade, to grow our trade, whether it's exports or local trade, but we are focusing on exports, so that is important. But who do you need to share a message with, and who do you need to act right now, and what do you have to say to them? Gabriel, you're right next to me, so I begin with you.
Thank you. Thank you, Julie. Yes, I'm happy you said let's not have any speeches, but very action-oriented. After listening to the presentation by P.S. Kipto, and a very eloquent presentation, I think we all know what the issues are. And the strategy looks just smashingly intelligent. But why are things not happening on the ground? So let me put out 3 or 4 things that we see. First is we still need to close the infrastructure gap. And Kenya is perhaps one of the few African countries where the investment in infrastructure has been exemplary. Just early this year, the African Development Bank awarded His Excellency President Kenyatta the Africa Infrastructure Investment Award for his leadership in investment in infrastructure, but we still have a long way to go. The gap in infrastructure in Kenya is about $5 billion annually, so there is still a lot of work to be done. Infrastructure also includes power, and a colleague talked about power for industry. There's still a lot of work to be done in that area. The second is Kenya needs to improve the business environment for the private sector to grow. There are still issues around labor, banking, and these are the kind of issues that are affecting investors from coming in or from being operating optimally. So let's look at how do we make Kenya an investment attractive for investment. Last year we went from 190, from being 190 to being 80th in terms of improving the business environment. But let's remember there's another country south of us that's 41st. So there's still room, there's a lot of room to improve the business environment. Third, how do we make sure that manufacturing in Kenya is not for Kenya? Let's get this out of our mind. It's for Africa, it's for the region, for the sub-region, and this is going to help us become more competitive going forward. Let's invest in the software. You know, this is all brick and mortar so far, but let's invest in people. Productivity, competitivity, that's going to come from the people who work. If you go to the EPZ in Athi River and you look at some of these young people working, there's still a long ways to go before they can become world-class competitive. Let's invest. So these are the, and I can go on, but let me stop there. And the African Development Bank is fully supporting the government of Kenya to address all of the above. Thank you.
Thank you very much for those key issues. Stefano, your thoughts on the issues, and the mic is right by your side. Thank you.
Your Excellency, Deputy President, and distinguished ladies and gentlemen, it goes without saying that an yearly event like the Trade Week is about providing impetus and hope to Kenyan producers. All speakers before me have the big gap between current realities of Kenyan exports and hopes. Kenyan exports are key to drive, at the very least, two of the big four, that is manufacturing and agriculture, and empower the other two, health and housing. So I'm here today to draw your attention to the real world, rather than dangers and derailing pipe dreams. And I want to do so as Kenya needs to seize the so-called demographic dividend of its growing young population with real opportunities rather than with fluff. The real world Kenyans look at say one clear thing. The European Union, hereby represented by 8 ambassadors of member states of the 28 member states of the European Union, is the world's largest trading bloc. It is the largest single market in the world. It has over 500 million of wealthy consumers ready to provide real prospects to Kenyan producers. When last month I went with 4 member states to revive cashew production in Kilifi, Kwale, and Lamu, what is happening there is that after 30 years that cashew nuts were not produced anymore, now they will be produced with digital means which will attract the youth into agriculture, and it will be produced with an extra premium because European consumers are very willing to pay for organic products, which adds about 20% of profit to the producer. The European Union has a secure legal investment framework that is amongst the most open in the world and remains the most open market to developing countries. It is the biggest export market for around 80 countries, and this is true for Kenya in particular, where we absorb more than 20% of Kenyan exports already, and the sky is the limit because increasing the share of processed exports rather than raw material. Yes, you export tea and coffee, but the tea is called Lipton or coffee is called Lavazza, while it should be, I think, value-added chains that we should focus upon. As the world's largest importer, the European Union deep and open market is already a vital source of income to people in developing countries. The EU is fully committing to strengthening free trade, determinedly opposing calls for new trade wars. And the EU works with Kenyan producers to enhance their capacity to develop standards. We have a big program called Standard Market Access Programs that precisely help a Kenyan producer to adjust their production to the standards to export to European Union markets. And that is why we're working very closely and very positively with the Kenyan enlightened leadership and government to bring forward the economic partnership agreement that will not need to be renewed every 5 or 7 years. It will be there for as long as Kenya and the EAC wants it, and it provides for a 20 years moratorium on imports from the European Union to Kenya, so safeguarding the development of the Kenyan manufacturer sector, while at the same time opening immediately the European Union market to Kenyan exports. And notwithstanding the 20 years moratorium, every 5 years there will be a joint committee examining if there are specific sectors that will need to be protected. So these are the realities in front of Kenyan producer, and I don't think any fluff will change this. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you. And yesterday, actually, we did focus on standards and compliance and all the issues that need to happen across that chain. Daktari, I come to you now. We were at the launch of the African Free Trade Area in Kigali just a few months ago, and what the Continental Free Trade Area means to us. It must mean something, but we are already grappling with challenges in even meeting the opportunities that currently exist. My question is, who needs to do what? How do we shift this?
Thank you very much. If I may just talk to... If I may just talk to what are the challenges you face with the ambition of a massive surge in manufacturing export from Kenya. First, the global setting. Globally, the year 2017 saw a 23% decline in FDI flow. What that means is there's a declining possibility of financing your ambitions from external money. Secondly, the largest sources of FDI into greenfields in the world were China, Singapore, and Thailand. That means you have to change your gaze in where you are seeking FDI possibilities from your traditional gaze. Second, we have seen the growing phenomenon of protectionism, accompanied by technological successes, particularly in automation of production and robotics. We are seeing labor-intensive jobs go back to territories where they had migrated from. We are seeing the prospect of textile manufacture in Georgia growing again, threatening the success story of AGOA. Third, we are coming to the end of the Cotonou Agreement, the EPA agreement with the European Union. The firing shots, the warning shots are in the air about what is the architecture for the future negotiation. It is good to say
continue, and we'll...
Where I sit differently from what he says. Where we are right now, in fact, the biggest challenges are the largest initiative globally on new architecture of trade is the China's Belt and Road Initiative. But unless you have looked at how do you build capacity in outward trade, you are just going to see a greater surge of made in China arriving into your markets. What are the challenges regionally and locally? CFTA has been signed. Leading voices in Africa are not working. If Nigeria is not moving on, it does not look African enough. South Africa has been making baby steps towards embracing the CFTA, but they still doubt your ability to keep rules of origin discipline. That transshipment from other countries, if you can't control Mexican or Brazilian sugar from coming into your countries, how will you guarantee that your territory will not be used by others to transship goods into South Africa? That's a continental challenge. Regionally, the biggest challenge is the following. East Africa remains an important export market for Kenya, but you have a problem that it is stagnating. In areas like Tanzania, it's declining, mainly because of non-tariff measures. What it means is Kenya has to look at regional market as going to the rest of Africa, much more than emphasizing inside East Africa. Now domestically, a number of challenges. First of all, the segmentation of responsibility on industrialization and export creation. You cannot leave the responsibility of a 36% increase in manufacturing export per annum necessary to achieve the 16% GDP that you are thinking of manufacturing. You cannot leave that alone to the ministry responsible for trade and industry. It has to be an all-government initiative. Secondly, you even make it more complicated when you segment export strategy to 47 units plus national government. I think what you need to do is a national dialogue between county governments and the national government. You must have one national strategy with components from the counties. You cannot have a multiplicity of strategies. Third, trade cannot grow as an enabler of prosperity unless you grow it pari passu with investment facilitation. We talk too much about trade, too little about investment. Now, what are the challenges? I mentioned drying up of FDI. I mentioned another one. Over the past years of Zuma's leadership, enterprise has been moving from South Africa to Kenya. 20 major companies relocating to Kenya. Now comes Cyril Ramaphosa, a great friend of enterprise. You have to see now the challenge of stalling any reverse flow of enterprise from Kenya towards South Africa. But that is a major challenge to you. Secondly, you already have a debt overhang that you cannot wish away. The level of public debt, both domestic and international, corporate and public, is a threat to sustainability. Already we are seeing 11 out of the poorest 67 countries in the world are already under debt stress. And conditions are not improving, particularly with uncertainties about interest rates with the Federal Reserve in the US. Domestically, you have to gain the political will to fight this interest cap thing. Today, as we speak, if you combine the interest rates on treasury paper with the benefit of tax waiver on lending to government, effectively, a bank makes more money by lending to government than by lending to enterprise. When you dry up capital markets, you cannot drive investment. Third, tax. I saw you just introduce tax on the rent for commercial services, VAT. Now, there is no country which went through revolutionary expansion of manufacturing while also increasing taxes. We're seeing potential increase in the cost of energy. I'm sorry that I have said so many things, but I just want to finish with two. One, I have not had any emphasis, any mention of the phenomenal potential and critical importance of the digital economy. You are not going anywhere expanding services without looking at what can public institutions do in facilitating the digital economy. How can we increase electronic market visibility of small enterprise produce in Kenya? This is a thing that you have to do, and with the region, create a common mobile wallet. Don't leave it to Safaricom and MTN to do it. Government should come in easing cross-border electronic trade. And finally, you must sustain your war against corruption. It is a major cost in addition to taxes. Thank you.
Thank you. Wow. Thank you for that amazing input. Let me come to Nick now. And Nick, let's take it from a private sector perspective. And I really want you to be as direct as possible. You have a deputy president here. You have the cabinet secretary, all other stakeholders here. What do you need to say? What needs to be heard? What needs to be done?
Thank you, Julie. So yes, speaking as a private sector, I speak as the leader of IBM in the region, also as KEPSA, and also recently the chairman of East African Business Council. So many hats there. So there's definitely the private sector and the policy standpoint. But as I'm sitting here listening, and especially on the last point here from Dr. Kitui around digitization, I'm reminded of many years ago when I was a student, having the opportunity to sit next to Steve Jobs and his future wife. And he was talking about the company he worked for at the time, or he built, called Next. And what is marketing? What is sales? He was talking about that. And he says you build a product, you design it really well, you make sure people know how it works, and you focus on ensuring that it essentially sells itself. And as I'm thinking about this, I'm thinking about the big job that my friend Linus Gitahi has here, which is to build the Kenya brand. So as we talk here primarily about supply chains, we're really thinking a lot about how do we sell things to people. Maybe we should think more about demand chains, as some smart people were saying before we started to speak. We're sitting here as private sector, we're sitting here as government, we're talking about how do we ship in more into the UK, more into Denmark, more into other countries. And when I look here, there are a large number of people who on one hand are the chief marketing officers as diplomats, they're also the chief procurement officers. So for private sector, if we want to know how to sell more green things into Europe, sit with Ambassador Knudsen there and talk about how you do green growth, right? P4G, and figure out how can we sell more into Denmark. We have very much of a sort of blanket strategy, thinking about selling, not thinking about people importing. So the way we can change that, I think, is really to go back to what Steve Jobs was talking about, which was to build trust. And you build trust in a brand through being consistent, being reliable, being convenient, and really making it easy for people to buy your products, use them, consume them, and dispose of them. So we in Kenya have a lot going for us. We've got the climate, we've got good schools for children to go to from other countries. We've got a lot going for us. We should take advantage of that. So the things I want to see are several. One of them is, there's a lot of work for P.S. Kipto and his boss, Peter Munya, and Aiden Mohammed, to really live up to the reality of East Africa. 150 million people. We heard what Dr. Kitui was saying about South Africa. We have to make 150 million people available to somebody who wants to make chewing gum in Machakos. So they can sell their chewing gum easily. You can sell your sweet potatoes to 150 million people easily. We have to focus on that. That's one thing. Secondly, I want to say we need to make it very clear on what our policy is going to be around foreign investment, and in particular around work permits. We can't say that we've got 100,000 work permits and end up with only 27 or 30,000, and then see that it's very difficult for people to predict where they should land their people. That's very important. The other thing I would say around this, just in general to the government, let's become more predictable. We have a 5-year plan. It's called NBA3. We're kicking off Simba's strategy. Sit here, very smart people in the ministries, tell everybody what you're going to do for the next 5 years and stick to it. Let's stop roadside proclamations. Suddenly a tax goes up, a levy comes down.
Right.
Businesses can't deal with that.
Let's have consistency.
We need
focus.
consistency
Right.
on policy. The other thing we need is consistency on processes. I was sitting here trying to get a license plate renewed. It's too crazy. So many IDs. Talk about digitization. Let's make our processes easier. The third one, which is very important, is, you never get a second chance to make a first impression. What the marketing gurus say now, people don't buy you for your product, they buy you for the experience.
It's the experience.
So if someone's coming to invest in Kenya, foreign, or local trying to invest in Kenya, what is their experience?
Okay.
The first thing you see at 9 p.m. when you land at Jomo Kenyatta Airport is lines and lines of people. Your Excellency, you might have seen this. Lines and lines of people coming on Emirates, British Airways, KLM, you name it. It's hot, it's this. You come to take your bags through, Fungua Mzigo, Iko Nini. You know, really, a 75-year-old tourist couple with Abercrombie and Kent have to open their bags? Why? How do you know they're not investing? How do you know they aren't the next Richard Branson? So we need to get more consistent on that. Now, as far as digital, let me just say one thing. Yeah. If we want to get our products sold into England, you've got to make sure that your products are traceable. The ambassador talked about organic. Focus on blockchain. Richard Branson just launched something called Almond. Take a picture in Sainsbury's and you can see that those Kenya beans came from Kenya, right?
Right.
Focus on that. So it's about building trust.
Thank you.
And I think the tagline should be trust in Kenya.
Trust
we have to build trust in Kenya.
Trust in
with
Kenya.
Our people, our processes, and our policies.
Right, and it has to start here, even as we take it out. Thank you so much. Governor, you were with us yesterday. We had a fantastic discussion. You made your commitments and even said that county governments, as we've even heard, they are going to start their own export strategies, but aligned with the national strategy. Tell us more about the commitments coming from the county structures, but also speak to the stakeholders who you need seated with you at the table, please.
Thank you, Julie. First, I must say that as counties, of course, we're primary producers of the products. And I think, just in line with what the chair of the Council of Governors mentioned, it's important that both levels of government work very closely between the county government and the national government. And I think we are happy because the Big Four agenda came on the table when most of our counties were just doing our county development plans. So we were able to mainstream some of these issues within our plans. Just in addition to what the chairman did mention, that, and I think my elder brother Mahisa has mentioned, it's important that this export development strategy is cascaded down to the counties. And I agree with him, maybe we don't need to come up with 47 strategies, but it's important that at the county level we do understand and then align ourselves with this national export development strategy. Now, as government at the county level, our key role, of course, creating an enabling environment so that we're able to do business and business in line with what we want to do. What is important for us at the county level, and I think I saw the chairman of Kenya Association of Manufacturers speaking, and Your Excellency the Deputy President is here. I think one of the things that we must achieve as government is creating an environment that is competitive, that allows our manufacturers, allows our exporters produce products that are very competitive. Now, one of the issues that we have been struggling at the county level, and I think across all the counties, is taxation. You know, people moving from one county to another county and being taxed levies all over the place. Next week, we have a meeting with the national government, the Treasury, on own resource revenue policy that is going to come up where we want to harmonize taxes across the 47 counties so that we're able to, tackle some of the issues that most of our manufacturers or small enterprises are facing in the 47 counties. Now, when I was just listening, and when the Kenya Association Manufacturer, the chairman was speaking, and Your Excellency, I think it was yesterday that we saw the hike in the power tariffs. I think when we talk about competitiveness, it's important that we actually action. And some of those things that happened yesterday, it does go along against what we are talking about here today. Now, the other issue that I feel that is very important for us as counties, and I think we spoke about that yesterday, Julie, is ensuring that this issue of ensuring that standards as needed by the international markets are able to be cascaded down. It's important that the national government, the ministry involved, are able to train our people at the county level so that our officers do understand some of these standards that are needed in the international markets. Now, for counties, if you remember very well yesterday, and I think the PA spoke about it very strongly, one of the biggest way we can do to increase our value in terms of exports is to increase the range of products. Now, yesterday when we had that discussion, Julie, you remember, and I think it came out today, is the issue of exports to the US and AGOA, the issue of home decor. Now, we believe as counties that we can play a very big role through the vocational training centers that we have in our counties. And I think some of the counties have actually equipped about, I think if it's Makueni, Taita, Chairman, a number of counties that have equipped vocational training centers, so that we can equip our youth and our women and be able to produce some of these products that we are talking about. So that will also go a long way in terms of encouraging development in exports. The other issue, Julie, is I think this discussion that we're having within counties. We have regional economic blocks coming up, like now in Western, we have the Lake Region Economic Block coming up, and I think this discussion that we're having can also be mirrored to those economic blocks, so that some of those blocks can focus on products and services that can easily, where they have competitive advantage. So this discussion can actually be mirrored at the regional economic blocks. Otherwise, it's a very, as I finish, and I think it's you mentioned, Julia, I don't know who it was. We can have all these conferences, talk about this, unless we action some of these things. It's a total waste of time.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Governor Wangamati. And can I just add that the importance of the county structures in actually supporting and growing our small and medium-sized businesses. The majority of people here with us are probably from the larger companies, but the capacity and the potential of our micro, small, and medium-sized businesses, absolutely critical. With all those views, Your Excellency, I come now to you, and with the huge challenge of meeting this Big Four agenda, growing trade in this country. You've heard from all the different stakeholders. I will get a final parting shot from each of them, but now we would like to hear your substantive thoughts on the issues at hand. Thank you.
Julie, thank you very much. First, let me say the Big Four agenda is a product of a very widely consultative engagement. Before the elections last year, we had international experts, and I want to thank my brother Kitui here because he was part of the people who sat down with us to think about the next 5 years against the background of what had happened in the last 5 years. And we came up deliberately with a Big Four because it was a product of where we were, the experience we had, and input from friends from across the globe, people who had seen Kenya move the baby steps and their own experiences from other countries. And therefore, this was deliberate. The reason why we are having this conference here today, specifically about trade, and more importantly about export, is again deliberate, because the Big Four will not succeed unless we focus our manufacturing, not just for our local market, but international market as well. And therefore, listening to the comments that have been made by the panelists here, the first item that we did focus was development of infrastructure. And as you've heard from Nagatu, we've spent huge resources in our transport network, infrastructure to do with electricity, and many of the items that are required as a platform where we can build our manufacturing. We've worked with partners like Africa Development Bank, again, on our activities, on improving the human capital, sharpening the skills and competences for people who will drive our manufacturing and our value addition engagement. That has, to a great extent, been successful. But building on that, and now that we have a solid base to build on, it was then necessary to think about what is the horizon? And that is why we came up with food security, which ties in with agro-processing. We have manufacturing, we have housing and health. And these two, critically, matters to do with agriculture, food production, and nutrition, and industrialization or manufacturing are critical when we are discussing about our trade, investment, and export. And what have we done so that we build on those blocks? Listening to what Stefana said, what Dr. Mugisa Gitui has said, yes, we realize that our market, we have to think about how to understand our market, how to penetrate the market. And that is why this conference is a product, and our trade, the policy we launch here, whether Brand Kenya, the export strategy we launch here, the AGOA strategy we launch here, is a product of a consultative process from government, private sector, county governments, and other interest groups. And going into the future, as government, apart from laying the necessary infrastructure, as Dr. Mugisa Gitui says, foreign direct investment is going down. And therefore, we have to find ways of ensuring that we are part of the beneficiaries of that dwindling resource as we grow our own local resources. And what are we doing as government? To be able to provide an avenue for resources that will help us build our own manufacturing capacity. We are consolidating 5 institutions: Industrial Development Bank, Post Bank, Kenya Industrial Estates, and another 2, into one development bank that will have the necessary muscle to lend to our manufacturers. We are consolidating Women Enterprise Fund, Youth Enterprise Fund, Uwezo Fund, and another 2 funds that has the capacity to raise additional resources for us to finance our SMEs. Realizing that as we look for external sources of resources, we must also consolidate and grow local sources of resources to finance our manufacturing and our value addition and our agro-processing. In our manifesto, and as was said here by Carol, the target is to have 3 special economic zones. We have already licensed 2. And in fact, we've walked through the baby steps, and the 2 are already, maybe in the next year, a year and a half, they will be fully operational. Again, these special economic zones will help in promoting our exports to the quality that is required and the market demands. Let me also say, deliberately, as government, we are also expanding our footprint, foreign trade footprint. For the record, we will have a total of 5 ambassadors, 5 new ambassadors in Asia, targeting specifically India and China. And their focus will be about trade as we leverage on our traditional markets. I saw from the slides presented here that China and India contribute 40% of all our imports, while they constitute only 4% of our exports. That we will have to turn it around. And that is why we are enhancing our diplomatic footprint to support our export strategy. Let me say 2 last things. To all of us here, as we do what we must, and I fully understand the requirement of technology, digitizing government service, digitizing our efforts. And there is a huge strategy on ICT. If Joe Mushero was here, he would tell you the whole array of how the Big Four will be the first items on our digitization program. Digitizing our farmers, making sure that all our universal health care coverage beneficiaries are digitized, ensuring that all government services, to reduce on what my brother from KEPSA was saying, to reduce on bureaucracy. We should be able, at the click of a button, to reduce bureaucracy. And lastly, we understand that we have competitors around, and not everybody is moving at our pace. It is true, Nigeria, South Africa are not moving at the same pace with us on the Africa Free Trade Agreement. But that does not dissuade us. We want to move ahead. We are among the first countries to sign in, to ratify, because we see the opportunity. Maybe they are comfortable because they have a sizable share of the market at the moment. But unless we do what we must, the situation will not change. What has happened last week, for example? South Africa lifted a ban on our avocados because they realized the market is changing. So we will continue to do what we must as a strategy, as we, as much as possible, try to understand what others are doing, but that will not deter us from pursuing our strategy with our partners, with the EU, with other development partners that are working with us. So we will keep to our game. We will ensure that we don't lose focus. And as again Dr. said here, we will also continue to make sure that we share experiences and we eliminate the things that stand in the way: wastage, mismanagement, corruption. Those are the things we will continue to focus on eliminating so that we can improve on the quality and standard of our products. I know I have said more than I should, but that is the way I see from where I sit.
You know, the buck stops with you, sir, so we are happy to hear from you, and it's important that we hear what the vision is. And as we close, you are momentarily going to come and together with stakeholders launch our documents, the strategies alongside the mark of identity. But I want a parting shot from each of the panelists as we close this panel. You know, paint the picture. What's the vision? We can see the challenges, and sometimes it's very easy to get lost in the challenges. Dubai, where it was just a few decades ago, and what it is today, somebody had to have a vision. I was in Guangzhou recently, and this incredible city has developed. 15 years ago, it was not there. They were rice paddy fields. So paint the vision for us. Where should we be? What do you want to see in terms of Kenya and trade? Governor, I will start with you on the end, please. In 30 seconds, literally. Thank you.
Julie, for me, is what I just said. That is important that all discussions that we're having, I mean, I was very happy to see Carol make a very good presentation here. I've listened to the PS, I've listened to the chairman of Kenya Association of Manufacturers, and I think all of us here are very clear what we want to do. And I think what is missing, and very importantly, what is missing in all this is actioning all these things that we are talking about, is ensuring that what we have developed as a strategy is actually implemented. It is done, and all of us make sure that whatever we need to do is done. And for me, if we can action even just 20 or 30% of what we are talking about here, it will go a long way in addressing that balance of threat that we have in this country.
Thank you so much. Nick, paint the picture. It will go a long way, but what will it look like for Kenya? What does it mean? What does it mean?
For me, what it looks like is large Kenyan multinationals born in Kenya, operating throughout the free trade zone of Africa, It means people are saying the Kenyans are coming, the Kenyans are coming. And it means people are buying Kenyan products because they trust the origin, they trust the people, and they trust the country.
Thank you. So it's what it is. It's what we are in athletics.
It's what we are.
Champions, right?
It's the rugby sevens. Yeah.
Right. Thank you. Dr. please.
In 1994, Vietnam exported $12 billion worth of manufactured produce. Africa exported $60 billion. In 2015, Africa had increased 50% to $90 billion. Vietnam had increased more than tenfold to $125 billion. I've always asked myself, what is it Vietnam did right that Kenya is not doing? Two things. One, a coherence between the educational policy and the labor requirements of the manufacturing sector.
Excellent, yes.
Secondly, a constant drive towards self-improvement, that we can be more productive, that we can be more competitive, that made in Kenya can stand above others. And three, are people who are trusting in themselves, that can rise above petty vices.
Right.
And realize the potential that you have, because Kenya can make it.
And so the social investment must be done. Thank you so much for that. Stefano, and I believe you also have some documents to share, but please go ahead very briefly, parting shot.
Thank you. It's right that all the Kenyan wing on this side has insisted on action. Over the last 3 years, the exports to European Union market have increased by 3%. Now we take 1/4 roughly of your exports already, and they're still unprocessed, to be developed and increased in the processed, as the Big Four are looking for. If we achieve that, this is because of concrete actions. And I want to gift to everyone here this book, which talks about the standard market access program that we already have deployed, and that has allowed this increase in Kenyan export, helping Kenyan exporters and producers to develop their standards to Kenyan markets. And I would perhaps also ask my friend, the PS for Trade, to help me to deliver one copy to the CS, and one copy indeed also for the African Development Bank. These are facts.
Right.
This is action that we deliver for the biggest export market Kenyans have already and should see growing day in, day out.
Thank you. Thank you, Stefano. Farm to Fork. Farm to Fork is the title of that report. Gabriel Nagatu, please.
Thank you, Julie. When I look at my crystal ball, 15 years from now, we will not be talking about Kenya alone. We'll be talking about East Africa. 15 years from now, it will be Kenya at the heart of it, Ethiopia to the north, and 1 or 2 countries to the south. These will be countries with no economic borders, with no tariffs and barriers at the border, and these will be the countries that will drive the growth of the African continent. I don't share my brother's concern about reverse migration to South Africa. If anything, I see a greater increase. But we'll check in 15 years. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for that. You know, we are already on the journey right now. Our passports are Republic of East African passports, Republic of Kenya, Republic of Uganda. We're already making the journey. Governor, please, if I could ask you to come forward. I've been asked to take 3 comments. I'm going to ask you to be as brief as possible. Thank you. So the cameras.
Thank you, Julie. Mine is going to be very brief. My name is Mudhomi Njuki, Governor of the Tharaka County, where main economic activity is coffee, mainly, and tea. And I want to raise a concern that maybe should have been raised yesterday, because I saw there was a panel on that, on the market of coffee in America and in Britain. I would, first of all, ask for forgiveness or pardon by any American who is in this room, because I'll say Americans are addicts of coffee. You're more likely to get coffee on American table than water. However, if you walk to Starbucks, the leading coffee house in America, you'll find very many coffee brands. And of keen interest to me was coffee from Ethiopia. But there was no Kenyan coffee. So I sought to find out from the ambassador why the Kenyan coffee is missing from Starbucks. And he said the Kenyan coffee, there's too much of it in America, but it's normally used to blend the other coffee from other countries. So it gets lost in between there, and there's no Kenya brand. So I asked them, how did Ethiopia do it? And they said Ethiopia insisted that they will sell coffee to America, but it must be sold as Ethiopian coffee. America boycotted coffee from Ethiopia for 2 years. They persevered, but today, if you go to any Starbucks shop in America, the Ethiopian coffee is there. And just to summarize that, when I went to Britain, I asked for coffee and was asked Americano or cappuccino. I said, why not Kenya? I said, those are the only coffees you know. It is only Americano or cappuccino. Then I asked, does America grow any coffee? Of course they don't grow any coffee. So I would like to have a situation where I'll walk to America one day and Britain one day and ask for Kenya coffee, and I brought Kenya coffee. The ball is in the court of the industry. Thank you very much.
Very much. Thank you. We'll call it Kenyano coffee. I can tell you we discussed coffee in great detail, and I welcome you to engage with the stakeholders who are here. Things are shifting, and I think the players are working on various different things. I'll take 2 more brief comments and shut it down. Lady over here, can I get one more? Someone towards the back I'm looking for? No one? Then I'll take the gentleman over here. Please come forward, sir.
Thank you, Julie. I realized men were talking, and I said, as a lady, I will speak. My name is Carol Karugu. I'm the Deputy Governor of Nyeri County. Brief comment. For me, I think what would really excite us at the ground is to see the value chain having 2 reactions. Value chain needs to be domesticated as much as possible. We need to see those industries in our counties. We need, if you're processing, if we're thinking of agro-processing, we want those domesticated in our counties, and that will help us then tell and show the real value to Mwananchi, because we can sit in big conferences, but for the farmer back in Nyeri, they're wondering, middlemen come and they get the higher side of the bargain. How can we domesticate the processing so that the real value is felt on the ground? Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Bharat Shah. Company is Kenafric Industries, and I'm chair of Game Trade and Tax Committee. Without any due disrespect to anyone, the word NATO, NATO, no action, talk only, we need to do the opposite. Talk, no talk, action only. That's the thing. The key thing is competitiveness and export. And my life example, in 2000, my export was 0%. 2005, was 70%. Today, it has gone down, but it is still 50%. So I think we have the will. We are entrepreneurs. We don't want government money. We want focused policies, competitive policies, consistent, and one very important, Mr. Vice President, VAT, if you want to, there is a parallel economy. We need to bring the economy to white economy. Bring VAT to 7% will create the South Asia success story, the engine of Kenya. And that is what I pray, and we can prove that it can be done. Thank you very much.
Thank you very, very much. In line with what you were saying, Deputy, the idea of food incubation centers. So if we're doing it for digital, should we not do it for agro-processing? So I think it taps into the same thing. Somebody has just whispered to me, youth as ambassadors, and then maybe something we have not really discussed in detail that, Deputy, I want to leave in your mind. The discussion around, can our regulatory agencies be facilitators and not a hindrance? We need to find a way to ensure they are supporting growth and not a constant barrier to growth. At this point, ladies and gentlemen, let me welcome to take over the launch ceremony as we go into the final phase and wind down, or wind up to wind down. Let's welcome the Cabinet Secretary, Peter Munya, to please come to the podium. You will be welcoming the Deputy President for us, and then we will go into the launch. Can we give him a round of applause, please, as he comes up?
Would have its assistance to enter the EU market on the right standards. This is something that, if you officially ask us, I think we can do easily. We want to help you because you've been the one who signed and ratified the agreement, and we want to empower
Your Excellency. Your Excellency, the Deputy President.
Write it in your book? Okay.
Cabinet Secretaries, Governors present. I may not be able to name all of them. We are very happy to have you in this forum. Diplomatic Corps, captains of the industry, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. I want to take very, very short time because we've been able to listen to a lot of analysis of the issues and the problems and the challenges we are dealing with in the trade sector, and more specifically on the export side of the trade. And therefore, I don't want to repeat what has been said, but I've also heard very clearly the industrialists and people who are engaged in trade want us now to move to action. And that is what is coming out very clearly. And clearly, Your Excellency, you have also had time to listen to the voices of the stakeholders in this sector. This Trade Week is unique in the sense that we have been able to come up with a holistic strategy on how to approach our export market, which we've not had for a while. In fact, I'm told when we had a strategy was 2007, and therefore since 2007, this is the first initiative to engage the stakeholders in a scientific manner and come up with an holistic strategy that will address the problems of exports. Your Excellency, clearly again from the strategy and from the views and from the reality on the ground, we must accept that there is a big problem. Our exports have been dwindling over the years, and even where we have improved on export is marginal improvement, marginal. And indeed, traditional exports like coffee are plummeted. In fact, coffee is now fourth in terms of the exports that we have. And even looking at number 4 is really distant number 4, because the highest export now is tea at 25%, horticulture 19%, apparel and textiles, and then coffee. And apparel and textiles is 6%, coffee is 4%. So from the leading export of the country to number 4 in the share of the market, clearly, you can see that's a major problem that we need to address. And even when we are talking about expanding the base, and I want to agree with the strategy really that there's no question about it, we need to expand the base. If 3 products or 3 value chains are accounting for the biggest percentage of what we are exporting, that is tea,
horticulture. In fact, say even two value chains, because then the rest is 6%, 4%, 25 to 19, then from there you plummet it to 6%. So it's basically two value chains that are really contributing to the biggest percentage of what we are exporting. So expanding the base is key. Expanding in a big way the base of what we export. And of course, also looking at the issues of competitiveness. What is it that is making our products less competitive in the world market, and what can we do to make it more competitive and expand our share of the market? So clearly, Your Excellency, the problem has been analyzed. It has been known, we know. It's not that the strategy is telling us anything new, because people have known all along that, if you lose a market and you have been exporting, you have lost a market. So what the strategy does is really package the information and distill the strategy that we require to implement for us to move from where we are. So clearly the issue is action. And I'm sure with your leadership, the leadership of the President, from what you've been telling us and what the President is telling us, he is also impatient. He wants action. So when action will be demanded from me, from the President and the Deputy President, I will demand from these other officers action. And this action, Your Excellency, is we must do, and the chairman of CAM has been saying since yesterday, we must move away from what we have been doing. Because what we have been doing, if we have been doing it and it's not changing what the picture, then we can't continue doing it the same way. We must focus on what the real problem is and what the real solution is. And Your Excellency, if we want to broaden the base, for us to broaden the base, because if you are talking about expanding the base, we must also expand the base in terms of production. Because most of the products there have the market, but they are lacking. Like coffee, the market is there. Not that the market is lacking. We have the market. We know the market is there. The problem is bad governance in the coffee sector, very bad governance, where brokers rule, misgovernance, misuse of coffee, even when the sales are done. The farmer doesn't access the value for his sweat because there is a lot of other layers up here that eat on what the farmer is supposed to get. So how do we assist the farmer to be able to access a fair price? Therefore, he is motivated to produce. And how do we also assist the farmer to earn the value so that he is also able to get a premium? Your Excellency, we are already working on a strategy. In fact, we have almost completed it on coffee, on macadamia, on cotton, and on many other value chains that we are targeting, because we may not be able to target all of them at the same time. We want to do an incremental strategy addressing specific value chains as we broaden the base. And we want to focus a lot on production, assisting the farmers to get affordable inputs, because that has again been another challenge. Assisting the farmer to get quality seeds, that also again been a challenge, and making the seeds also affordable and available. Just to give you an example, Your Excellency, the market for macadamia, for example, is big. Look, talking to the people who are dealing with it, it is big. We can't even satisfy. So we need to improve on the production. But if you go to the market to buy seeds in the season, last season when it was raining, people were buying seeds. The seeds were not available. So prices also went up because the seeds were not available. So a quick intervention that government will do, and we are going to do, because really it is not our business to come also lament like everybody else is lamenting. Our business as government is to do the interventions, respond to the demands of the industry, implement what the industry is requiring us to do, and then we are able to move forward. So addressing the issue of seeds, I was just giving that example, Your Excellency, seeds, availability of seeds, quality seeds, and affordable, at an affordable price for the very ordinary farmers who, when they amalgamate their production, is what contribute to the bigger picture of our exports. It's what we must do. The issue which you have already alluded to, again, we have already finished the strategy on SMEs, trying to make sure that credit is available. The information on where to get the credit is also available. Those who are providing credit, or now we can work with them, and we are working with some of the guarantee institutions to have a bigger basket for those who want to uptake credit, and also being underwritten by government for us to also have, more people access that credit, bigger, small and medium enterprises access that credit for them to be able to produce and therefore contribute to this strategy. So, Your Excellency, in sum, I want to assure you that on our part, we want to do our bit in terms of contributing to the implementation of this strategy. And we also want to assure you that we want to work very, very closely with the counties. And therefore, the other strategy and what we need to do immediately to see how we can sit with the counties, work on a joint implementation program with the counties, because the counties are the ones that will be addressing that primary level of production. And therefore, whatever resources we have, we can be able to share in terms of what we need to do and what the county is required to do for us to continue improving on the production and on the value addition as we move forward. And I want to say we are happy that the chairman of the Council of Governors and his team are here. The chairman of the trade committee are here. We want to sit down and therefore agree on the specifics of what we need to do to implement that strategy that is already developed. The other issue that we would need the counties to do is, apart from that general acceptance and adaptation of the strategy, we also want to seek counties adopting specific value chains that they want to promote. So that, as Mukisa Ketuju said, if you have 47 counties dealing with a certain number of value chains, that's a big multiplier effect that can contribute in a big way if it is properly targeted, and then we synergize with the national government in terms of assisting those producers value and also access the market. So in sum, we want to really assure the industry and the stakeholders that we are ready to work, and we have been given targets by our leadership on what we need to do, and we want to assure that we are going to do that. So without too much ado, therefore, I want you to join me in welcoming the Deputy President, His Excellency William Ruto, to come and address you. And I want you to give him a hearty clap as he comes to address you.
Thank you very much, Peter. Please take your seats. Thank you very much. I know we've all had a long and full day. I think we have been here for a while, and I will limit my comments. First, I bring the apologies of His Excellency, the President of the Republic of Kenya. This is one meeting he would have wanted to preside over himself, because it is a very important discussion. And I am going to read his statement. Cabinet secretaries present, principal secretaries, chief executive officers, our friends, development partners, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. It is a pleasure to join you all and to celebrate Trade Week with you, as with all the friends and partners that have made this day possible. I have recently and especially in my mind, all those who have worked in any capacity on the 3 new strategies we launched today: the Integrated National Export Development and Promotion Strategy, the second National African Growth and Opportunity Act, commonly known as AGOA strategy, and the Action Plan for 2018-2022 of Made in Kenya brand initiative. Your work has been tireless. You have earned our thanks and appreciation. Why, Kenyans might ask, do we need new plans? It is a good question and one we ought to answer. Well, first, exports we know are vital. They fuel our growth in our counties, they support good jobs, and they unlock global opportunity for our companies, our farmers, and our workers. While we have, yes, made some efforts towards growing our exports, the performance has not been encouraging. That fact is reflected in the narrowness of our export offering. In 2017, 5 categories of products accounted for 56% of all our exports, and 13 countries bought 70% of all that we had to offer. We therefore need a national export strategy, a solid plan to broaden our export base and to find new, more rewarding markets, and not least, brand our products appropriately. We need growth to bring Kenya the high standard of living their hard work has earned, and we need growth to create new, rewarding jobs for our young people. That won't happen unless we grow our exports, and we can't grow them without answering the 3 challenges just set out. That is the problem we have to solve. I start with the last. We have long known that we need to develop iconic Kenyan branding. The Made in Kenya brand we launch today will, we hope, set Kenya apart as the home of a set of products that meet the needs of discerning buyers across the world. Manufacturers, producers, and smaller business will, I trust, take advantage of the new mark to promote their products in new markets and in old ones. The better to win for us the attention and sales we deserve, and to win more of the value of their products. Our mix of policy and international engagement reflects our long history of successful trade. We are members of the Common Markets for Eastern and Southern Africa, COMESA. We have long been committed to the integration of the East African community, and we, under the Cotonou Agreement of 2000, have duty-free market access to European Union for most of the products originating from this region. Our trade partnership with the EU under the EAC-EU Economic Partnership Agreement remains strong, as does our agreement with the USA under the African Growth and Opportunity Act, which opened up that market for thousands of products in our country. To meet the challenges mentioned earlier, we have to re-examine these partnerships and see how we can make them even more productive. That is precisely the aim of our AGOA strategy and action plan we launched today. We look to it to guide our efforts to raise the volume of our exports to the US and to widen their range. I wish, on behalf of the Kenyan government, to thank the government of the United States for its support in the development of the AGOA strategy, and we look forward to our continued collaboration. Equally, with support from the Department of International Development of the United Kingdom through Trademark East Africa, we have developed a new export development and promotion strategy, focusing on those areas where Kenya already has endowments and comparative advantage, and we are grateful for their support. Now, this strategy identifies 8 sectors that together have the potential to triple Kenya's export share of GDP from 8 to 25% by the year 2022. The plan is ambitious, but the good news is that it is achievable. Consider the sectors selected: manufacturing, agriculture, livestock, fisheries, trade in services, emerging sectors such as oil and gas, and so on. In each, we know that with careful planning, we can raise our production and our quality while creating jobs for our people. Again, we shall have to seek out opportunities. We can't expect them to come to us, as was said earlier by Paris. That means we can't rest content with the usual markets or rely on domestic consumption. After all, the markets outside our borders are far larger than those within. That is how to grow exports. If we adhere to this plan, working across government and with the private sector, we can expect Kenya's exports to grow and to find new buyers right across the world. Indeed, the strategy requires us to pay keener attention to the development of export markets and products, to export promotion, and to the quality of our supply chains. These should be responsive to bilateral, regional, and international market opportunities to ensure direct links to destinations markets. The strategy has my full support. We will consult carefully with the relevant branches of government and with the private sector, but let me indicate the changes I would like to see. First, we as a government have agreed to establish the Export Promotion Subcommittee of Cabinet to spearhead the execution of this strategy to diversify and grow our exports. I must also insist that the time has come to take a new look at our compliance with international standards. Growth in Kenya's exports has been slower than we would prefer because we haven't always met external standards. We cannot afford to be complacent on these areas. Export markets wait for no one. Here as well, we will consult widely to make sure that Kenya's trade matches her potential. Another challenge I ought to mention is the high cost of trade finance. It has become clear that export expansion of the magnitude we expect depends on reasonably priced risk cover for our exporters. The Cabinet Secretaries in National Treasury, in Industry and Trade have a clear task before them. They have been tasked to look into the possibility of establishing an export insurance guarantee scheme to provide export credit insurance support to Kenyan exporters. Let me close with a final policy change that the government has committed to make. For decades, the Export Promotion Council has led the way in our international trade. Their diligence and knowledge are beyond praise. They really are a success story. Now, as we enter a new phase of export policy, the time has come to clarify and streamline their operations. It seems to me that this might best be done by merging their functions with those of Brand Kenya Board to make certain that our products have the best chance of reaching new markets and doing even better in their present markets. I trust the Cabinet Secretary in the Ministry of Trade will make the necessary propositions so that we can implement the changes I have recommended. It remains only to thank all of you and all those who could not be here for their diligence in putting together these new policies. All of us long for the day when the hard work of Kenyan manufacturers and businesses is rewarded with recognition, respect, and sales right across the world. Your hard work has brought that day a step closer. It is now my pleasure, ladies and gentlemen, to officially declare the Trade Week and Exposition 2018 open. Thank you, and God bless you.
Thank you very much. We move to the launch phase for the two documents and the Made in Kenya mark of identity. And I'll ask all our stakeholders please to step down and please gather in front of this interesting box with a gadget on top of it, because you are going to press it down in a moment and that will launch the whole process. Can I ask, ladies and gentlemen, the rest of us remain seated. All our key stakeholders, please come to the front. Thank you very, very much. Our partners engaged in this process, USAID for the AGOA, the National AGOA Strategy. Are you with us here? At the front, please. And what we're going to do, Carol Karaoke, because of Betty, please, PS, if I could ask some of the ladies to make sure they're right in the center as well. Move forward a little bit. Deputy High Commissioner Susie Kitchen as well. What we will do, if you could just place your hands on top of that gadget, and together, if you will accompany the Deputy President, please. Wanna see, yes? Yes, 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 some of our governors there. And if we can press it down together, 1, 2, 3, press it down. And it will kick off, and there we have behind you. Please look at the screen behind you now. Step away from the box. Of two key strategies, our trade strategy and the AGOA strategy, and the launch of the mark of identity. Kenya as we launch our strategic documents and the mark of identity which builds, grows, markets Kenyan brands. Can I ask you now to all turn and face the cameras for the photography session? Thank you very much. Lights up, please, in the room. Can we have the lights up?
Lights, please, lights.
As we take the pictures commemorating the launch of our national trade strategy, the national AGOA strategy, and the Made in Kenya Mark of Identity initiative, we shall prepare to go for lunch in a short while. And of course, we have deliberations ongoing throughout the week as we continue to look into the challenges, the solutions, and the way forward. And here we have the documents being presented. Thank you very much. Please, let's remain seated let's give a big thank you to the Deputy President as he exits the room. For the rest of us, I have some information on lunch. Thank you all very much for your attention and your participation this morning. It is time for us to break for lunch. For everybody with the VIP badges, lunch will be on this level and just to my left. So in a moment you will get up and just exit, make your way to the left if you have the VIP badges. If you have other badges, then you will be having lunch downstairs, so you will just make your way right here at KICC to the floor below us where lunch is being served. And I will now ask, please, that as they exit the room, we prepare to stand up and to go to our respective lunch areas. If you need any assistance, the ushers will help you with information. And we're back, of course, this afternoon to continue our deliberations. Thank you so much.